Oh, hi, Leo. Oh, have you started the webinar already? Let's see, is anybody with us? There are some people with us. Hi, everybody. Oh, uh-oh. He's realized that there are people that joined us. Leo, are you shy? Oh, he's a bit shy. It's okay. These are all teachers. They're super nice. They're super nice. Come on out. That's it. Give them a wave. Oh, we've got the blurred background on. That's a shame. Oh, maybe I can turn that off. Let's see. There we are. Hi, Leo. Say hi to all the teachers. Yeah. So, Leah, what are you doing here? Why are you joining us this evening? You want to play a game? Okay. Let's see if these guys are curious to see what game this is. Okay. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. Can everybody see my screen? Leo, can you see the screen? Yes, he can see the screen. They are curious. There they are. Well, welcome everybody to our MENA Young Learners Festival. This is Leo. He's joining us to start the webinar, but it's late here in Dubai, so he's going to be going to bed soon. Now, Leo, you said you wanted to play a game. What is this game? Oh, it's a guessing game. Okay. Let's see if these guys can play with us. Let's move to the next slide. Let's see if these guys can guess what your word is. Now, this word is going to connect all of these themes. Let's go back to the last slide. It'll go back. Can I go back? So, today we're going to be looking at empathy, curiosity, and we're going to be looking at writing skills. And tomorrow, as part of the festival, we're looking at wonder, self-awareness, and thinking skills. So I think these teachers are going to need to use some of these things to play your game, aren't they? That's right, they are going to need to use some of these skills. Okay, so let's play the game. So I'm going to get rid of some of these lines, and we're going to see if they can guess what word it is. Now they've got 10 goes. Is that right? That's right, they've got 10 goes. Let's see. Now this word, I think, summarizes, it synthesizes a kind of overarching theme for this particular festival. So let's give them the first one. I don't think that helps them very much, does it? No, that definitely doesn't help them. Okay, let's give them another one, number 2. No, I still don't think that's going to help them very much. I'm watching the chat box. I can't see any guesses so far. What do you think? Yeah, can anybody guess? Maybe people can start putting in things they think it might be. This is number 4. Hmm. Let's try another one. Oh, look, we've got a letter now. It finishes with the letter N. Okay, let's try another one. Anybody got any guesses yet? Let's see. Can't see any. Could be a comment. Children. Could be children. Communication. This is a good guess. I'm going to give them another letter. Oh, we got a big gap now. So I think we can guess what it finishes. I think somebody might have it right. The last one. Oh, now we have it begins with a C. Are you excited? I think they know what it is. It's going to be connection. Well done, everybody. I'm going to give you a clap. Okay, let's put Leo down to one side, because he's very distracting for me. And I'm going to welcome you all to this evening. We're starting with something a little bit fun, aren't we? So welcome everybody to the Young Learners Festival. This is the MENA Young Learners Festival. It's part of a 2-day program, which is combined with our Global Young Learners Day tomorrow. And of course, I'm going to do the housekeeping first before we kick off with our first webinar. Of course, there's always certificates for our webinars. These are free webinars. They're here to help you. And we always issue a certificate. So there'll be a certificate for today, and there will also be another certificate for the one tomorrow as well. So you'll get 2 certificates if you attend both days. We're going to put the link up in a bit so you can register for tomorrow as well, just in case you haven't done that yet. We're also going to be sending out from this webinar some goodies that are connected to the themes that are being introduced today. We're going to send you a little book of curiosity because our second webinar is all about curiosity. So there's lots of additional ideas in there from two wonderful authors, and they've done some talks for Macmillan before. So go to YouTube and look these guys up because they're fantastic. Sarah and Claire, they've done lots of great things. And then we're going to also send you a new book that we've created recently, which is a little book of inclusive teaching by, well, can you guess? You can see it there on the screen, the one and only Sarah Hillyard, who is going to be joining us in a few minutes. So we'll be sending you them, and if I can find anything else related to the conversations that we have today, anything that I think will be of use to you, to help you in your classrooms, help you with your young learners, I will add that to the follow-up email as well. So this evening is brought to you by Macmillan Education, and it's brought to you by our MENA PD Academy, which is our free professional development platform. I think many of you have probably joined us for events in the past. Hands up if you've joined us for events in the past. Any of the MENA ones? Anybody seen me? Anybody seen any of our things that we've done before? I'm sure you have. You are welcome as always. If you haven't explored the MENA PD Academy, you can scan the QR code. We'll also send the website link in the follow-up email as well. We can share the link for the future webinars. It will be done in just a moment when it comes up. So professional development support, always free. Plenty of things going on throughout the year to help you guys in your classrooms. But I've got a question for you because I'm trying to think about what we can do in 2026. I'm looking ahead to next year. What kinds of things would you like us to cover? I'm going to give you a couple of seconds in case anybody is using that QR code, frantically trying to find their phone. Have a think. What would you like to cover? Any particular topics? Any particular activities? Would you like more webinars? Would you like us to create more modules? We created modules before. Would you like more podcast episodes? Would you like more resources? What would you like? I'll give you a minute. You are most welcome. No problem, Iona. I did just tell you about a new webinar tomorrow, and it's on one of the next slides, so I'll introduce it in a second. Passion-based learning. I love that. That sounds great. I can definitely do that. Resources, some webinars, some workshops. Okay, good. So keep writing in the chat box what kinds of things you would like us to cover, and I will keep a copy of this chat box and come back to it later so I can have a look through all of your wonderful ideas and start implementing them into our plans. Isn't that right, Leah? Yeah, that's right. We'll put them in our plans. Okay, great. And I'm also thinking ahead towards our next webinar program. So for this one, we've brought in a range of speakers. And when we do our summer sessions, we always like to use voices from MENA. We like to reach out into the community and say to you guys, we want you to share your expertise. Are you doing any research in your classrooms? What ideas are you doing? Are you practicing with? What are your experiences? What are your passions? Somebody mentioned about passion-based learning. What are your passions? We have a wealth of expertise and experience here across the region, from Morocco right through to where I am in Dubai. And we want to give you guys the platform to be able to share some of that stuff. So I'm going to be sharing in the follow-up email as well, a little survey. If you would like to get involved, please, you can fill in the form. Let me know what you would like to talk about, and I will reach out to you and pick up that discussion. And then we will pick a few people to speak in the summer. I'd also like to know, because we're all in different time zones and we all have different school years, when would be a good time in the summer? Would you guys prefer it in May or June or July? When is a good time to hold a webinar program like this for your country? So you can also let me know that as well. January, we did them in January this year, actually. We did them early this year. February, this is kind of during Ramadan time. May, I think, yeah, just before. July and August is nice before you get reared up for the new school year and we start doing all the back to school activities. July. Okay, great. Again, keep writing and we will try. Maybe we'll do them in January and we'll do them in July. You never know. We might get lucky. Okay, so let's come back to today. So today is day one. And we are going to be welcoming Sarah Hillyard, as I just mentioned, and we're also welcoming Donna Shaw and Ola Refaat. And we're going to be looking at these three particular topics: empathy, curiosity, and developing writing skills. So we got a few different things going on here. But I use that word connection because I think that is going to really thread through a lot of this, connecting with others, connecting with ourselves, connecting with the environment, connecting with the world around us in terms of that curiosity, but also connecting with our content. So there's going to be a lot of this idea of how students can connect, I think, that's going to come through this. And I might talk about that a little bit later on. Tomorrow, we are going to be hosting the Young Learner Day. So Will Rickson will be here tomorrow. And I put down the most relevant timings, I think, for our region. And we've got three absolutely wonderful speakers, Vanessa, Miriam, and Michelle. I think Miriam might even be in the background hiding away. Leo, have you seen Miriam? Did you see her name? Yeah, he did see her name. I saw her name too. I am here. There she is. And we're going to be looking at loads of things. Wonder, I mean, Miriam, you've done loads of stuff on Wonder before. It's fantastic, the stuff that you've done. Promoting self-awareness, we're going to be thinking about thinking skills. There's going to be loads of really cool activities and ideas tomorrow, I'm sure. And you're probably wanting to know, well, how do I register for that? How do I join Miriam when she's not in the chat box, when she's on the screen? You can scan that QR code, or you can go to macmillanenglish.com. I will actually, again, share in the follow-up email the link. You can also go to our website, menapdacademy.com, and you can register directly from there. I've put a link on that website. So everything feeds and funnels into registering for. There you go. Look, somebody's already put that up. Look, wonderful. Great. So join us tomorrow. If you cannot join us in the afternoon, the one tomorrow is actually being repeated several times. So you can come along at the time that suits you the most. Not the late one for me, because that's 9:30. That would be in Dubai, 1:30 in the morning. I will definitely be asleep. I'm sorry, Miriam. I might come for the afternoon one. In fact, I will be there for the afternoon one. And we don't finish there, because we're going to be back again in 2 weeks' time, looking at teenage learners. So today and tomorrow it's going to be all about the Young Learner classroom, but in 2 weeks' time we're going to be back for the Teen Learners Festival. And we've got, again, 2 days, very similar structure, very similar timings to today. And again, we're going to have three speakers on each day. I will be one of the speakers. I'm going to look at differentiation. I've done this before if you've joined that one, but I did it for young learners. And I'm going to be tweaking that and looking at how we can design our learning environments to allow us to be able to differentiate for all students. We've got Kate Pickering, who's joining us for some engagement and participation. She's going to be looking at influencers. So there's going to be a connection to influencers on that. And we've got the wonderful Dave Spencer, who's going to be doing some work on mixed ability classrooms. And then on day 2, we're going to be looking at another variety of things with Anna Hasper as one of those speakers, someone else from MENA, who I'm sure you all know. So the links are, I can see in the chat box. Wonderful. You guys can register for that. So back to today, and let's get started with our first webinar, which is going to be all about learning with empathy. So I'm not going to spend too much more time because I've taken up a lot of time. Sorry, Leo. Tut tut. It's okay. I'm sure they don't mind. And we're going to be looking at learning English with empathy, emotionally safe English classrooms. Sarah, hopefully you've all met Sarah before. She's done many, many webinars and activities for Macmillan Education in the past. So I'm sure you've come across her. She's an absolutely wonderful speaker. She's a wonderful trainer, full of positivity. I know you do lots of stuff on positivity, Sarah. So we're looking forward to all of your ideas and for you to bring even more positivity to this particular webinar. She's also the ambassador for our primary course, Share It. And I was going to say, like a little bit like a drum roll, as if we were at a kind of boxing match. I'm going to play a 30-second video which introduces Share It, but I think it's also a nice way to bring Sarah onto the stage. Hi, how are you doing?
Hi, hello everyone. Hi Nathan.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Do you want to say
Good.
hi? Here. He's
Hey,
like, he's creeping in the corner.
hello.
Sorry, we're just kind of having some fun in the background. It's a young learners festival, right? So I think it's
Yeah.
appropriate to, puppets. I hope people do use puppets in their classrooms. I think puppets are absolutely fantastic. I loved when I worked with young learners using puppets. I use them all the time, and for such a variety of activities. They're not just to do listening activities or speaking activities. You can use them for so many different things. So.
Yeah, I've got my little box of tricks down here as well, and I'm going to be showing some of mine. So, yeah, not just for listening or speaking tasks, but for fostering other kinds of skills as well, the development of other skills.
Cool. So I'm not going to disrupt you anymore with my Leo antics. I'm going to stop sharing so that you can share your screen.
Thank you very much.
See if you can get yours up.
There we go.
Wonderful. So I will be in the background. I will monitor the chat. If there are any questions that come up, feel free to answer them at your leisure. I know you like to interact a lot with the audience. But if I see any good ones or any that you think I can come back to that at the end, I will kind of collect them and we'll have a little Q&A discussion at the end as well, if that's okay.
Lovely. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, Nathan.
You're welcome. I will be in the background if you need anything. I'm here.
All right.
So yeah, have fun, everybody. Enjoy
Thank
the festival,
you.
and I will see you at the end.
I'm sure we will have a lot of fun. This is a festival, as Nathan said. So, and I've got my little box of tricks here for you. So, hi everyone. It's lovely to be part of this Teachers Festival today. And thank you for being here and joining us for these 3 sessions that we're going to be having today. I can see some people saying hello in the chat box, and it was really interesting to see what other kinds of topics you would like to see in webinars. And many of you talked about, there was a mention of passion-based teaching, which I think is wonderful. It's fantastic. And I think there's a lot of that involved in my session today as well. And how to keep a class engaging and full of enthusiasm was another one. And that also has a little bit to do with this. But we'll see how, in what ways. And so we're going to be looking at empathy today, learning English with empathy. So you may notice that the word empathy on the slide starts with a capital letter. And this is because I'm actually using it here as a name for someone very, very special that I have brought with me today for this special session. But you can only see my friend, you can only see her if you are in a positive state, if you feel safe, if you are open and listening actively and smiling. So tell me in the chat box, are you smiling right now? Are you positive? Are you open? I can see someone saying I'm excited. Yes. Faces with hearts. Of course, amazing. Huh. Here she is. Come on, don't be shy. It's all right. They are open, they are positive, they're ready for you. They're smiling. Come along. Yes, here you are. Here she is. Meet empathy. Hello, my name is Empathy. I help classrooms become safe spaces. I notice how people feel and I make sure no one is left out. My superpower is understanding how others feel. I help make English classrooms feel safe, friendly, and full of kindness. You know what? Everybody has got an empathy. I'm sure you've got an empathy. We don't always remember to use it, but I'm sure we all have it. So I would ask my children in my classroom to show me their empathy, and maybe they can have their own empathies, because everyone has it and it helps us to notice feelings. But empathy can come in very different ways. It could be drawn on a finger, or it could be a spoon puppet, and children can make their own spoon puppets and they can all be different. And we can look at the similarities and the differences amongst those spoon puppets that they make themselves. And there could be a bit of character development in this, a background for each one of those spoons, or a personality for those spoons. How about a finger puppet? See how I've got my box of tricks here as well. Maybe our finger puppets can come and have a little conversation, or we can have a little role play, or we can talk about important values in our classroom. It's okay to try and try again. Let's choose words that are kind. Or, I think someone might need a friend. If I focus on someone who's needing a friend in the classroom, maybe my puppet will come out and will notice these kinds of things. It's the empathy puppet who notices when someone needs help, when someone is making a mistake and it's okay to try again. They can give important messages to the class. They can be used for role playing. It's a good way to help children understand the world around them in a safe way, in an imaginative way. But make sure if you're using little finger puppets or a puppet like Leo that Nathan had today for the introduction, that they are using both characters to feel both perspectives. How does it feel to be this one? And how does it feel to be the other one? If you're using Share It, the course book, you have these little finger puppets to make with your class. They can colour them in. My daughter helped me to colour this one in, my daughter Mila. So speaking through puppets is sometimes not as scary as speaking as oneself. Puppets are a really, really good resource to use in your classrooms. Or you might have children use their empathy glasses. How do you think your friend might feel when you use your empathy glasses? Maybe this will help you to look again and listen again. So there's lots of resources you can use in the classroom. These are just some of them. But yes, as Maya says, it's a creative method to control and build a rapport with the whole class. Absolutely. And Reem says they thrive in fun environments. And Maya says that the children will love those puppets. So yes, there are lots of reasons why you might want to use puppets or even a little finger. Because you know what I think? I think this is important for the young learner classroom because empathy is a very abstract concept. So what children sometimes need is for those abstract concepts to become a little more concrete, tangible. They need to be able to imagine what it might look like, what it might sound like. Just saying, use your empathy or have some empathy for your classmates. That is not enough. In some way, it needs to exist first in a concrete form. Okay, you can't touch empathy. But in the classroom with children, we want to be able to see children doing right actions and hear empathy by using the right words. So after making empathy visual and tangible, like with a finger puppet, a spoon, or the glasses, just then can you keep empathy in your classrooms in the real form through words, choices, and kindness. So paramount in a classroom of any sort is that learners feel emotionally safe and emotionally valued. And that is what we're going to explore today through empathy. So what we'll do is we're going to be starting with a little warm-up and we're going to look at what empathy really means. And I'm taking one of my favourite definitions of empathy because there are lots of ways to talk about empathy. We're going to do a little experiment. I'm going to be using you for a little experiment. And we're going to look at the empathic learner and the empathic teacher and what this means. And going into the practical, which is always my favourite part, what can we do to actually promote empathy in a foreign language classroom? Yes, for example, Mayara says also we can break the ice and we can be encouraging. That is a lot connected with empathy as well. And Hamza asks, do you think this is applicable with 11 and 12-year-olds? Or, okay, so 11 and 12-year-olds are perhaps a bit older for these kinds of things, but I do think they still engage well once they accept the puppet in the classroom. And maybe having them create their own characters. Maybe they need to be more like action figures or something like that. Maybe they need to be, maybe they could be Lego figures. if you wanted to, so they could make their own. And although we sometimes think of 11, 12-year-olds as being, they're a bit too old for these things, they really have a child inside. I think we all do have that child inside, and we all really like playing in the end. Maybe at the beginning they'll be a bit reluctant, but in the end they'll be really proud of creating their puppet, whichever way you make it, as an action figure, as a Lego man or Lego woman. So I think that could work very well. But we'll go into the practical in a bit later on. No problem, Hunter. Thank you for your question. And we'll do a little reflection. So look at the picture. What is happening here? It's not 6, 7. Do children do that in your context? The 6, 7 thing going all around the world. It's not that 6, 7. It's 6 and 9 in this case. So can you look at the picture and tell me what is happening in this picture? Different perspectives. Both are right. Yeah, they do, don't they? Different points of views, perspectives. Excellent. So they're both arguing, aren't they? Because of those different perspectives, they're different points of views, they're different opinions. So if the two people put themselves in the other person's place, do you think it might help them to understand better? He even says it's 2 ways of interpreting. Sure, yes, it's a debate. We would have to look from each other's points of views. Yes, absolutely. So taking my favorite definition of empathy, empathy is the art of stepping imaginatively into the shoes of another person, understanding their feelings and perspectives, and using that understanding to guide your actions. So we have 3 main words here. And I like this definition because of that focus on imagination, and children have big imaginations, but also being able to understand and understanding the other person. But we can't leave out that last point, which is taking action. Sometimes we can see someone is going through a hard time and we can say, oh, poor thing, they're going through a hard time. So we think we're being empathic, we think we're having empathy, but we're not actually doing anything about it. We're not actually asking, how can I help? What can I do? Can I help this person in any way? And take action. So that last point, I think, is really, really important from Chris Narek's definition of empathy. So he says that this definition involves these 3 main concepts, and it has to do with these 3 different moments. So the moment when you're imagining what's happening to someone else, that's called cognitive empathy. It's going through your brain, it's going through your mind, and you're stepping into the shoes of another person. This could be in the classroom or outside the classroom. Kisnarek actually focuses on parents and children, but we can transport this into the teacher-student relationship as well. And so this is the moment when you step into someone else's shoes and you imagine what's happening, the drive to identify in your imagination what the classmate or the teacher, or being a teacher, your students might be thinking or feeling, and putting yourself in their shoes, imagining what is going on with them. The second step is that real understanding for them, not just noticing this and imagining, but actually understanding. And he calls it effective empathy, the effect that you feel, understanding their feelings and perspectives, that emotional reaction that you have. But both the cognitive component and the affective component must be combined together to create that third component, which is empathic concern, which is using that imagination and that understanding to actually do something about it, to guide your actions and try and provide help, assistance, or a shoulder to cry on, or whatever that person needs, that action that you can take. Empathic concern is that emotional response of compassion or of kindness or concern that leads up to that action to help them if they're in need. But you need to have all these to happen. Amen said that to have a heart that is big enough and a mind that wide enough to accept and respect others' feelings. Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's really important that we do that in the classroom as teachers, and students need to be able to develop these skills as well. So in a classroom, it works both ways. It's the teacher feeling empathy for their students. It's the students learning to have empathy for others in the classroom. But again, I believe that first it comes from imagination, and from understanding these abstract concepts in a more concrete way. So it might come in the form of a puppet, it might come in a form of a poem, a story, some art, drama, simple metaphors, something that helps them imagine what that empathy sounds like or looks like. And make those abstract concepts more real, more concrete. More so in a foreign language, it's even more difficult. And then transpose them to the real world to be able to actually take action. So imagine, and this is the little experiment, imagine you could only open one of these two cages. Which cage would you open? You can only open one. The one with the chocolates, or would you open the one with the rats? Which cage would you open? You're only allowed to open one. Which one do you go for? Of course, the chocolate, says Ruth. Lots of chocolates for sure. Okay. You people have no empathy. Okay. Apparently, a rat wouldn't give the same answer. I, of course, tricked you a little bit, but a rat would actually release both if given the possibility. The rat would release their cage mate and also the chocolates. So I was a little bit tricky with you, but I wanted to see if you would say the chocolate. In 2011, some researchers conducted this simple experiment to find out if rats have any empathy at all. So they tested whether a rat would release a trapped cage mate from the cage, from a restrainer, actually. The other rat was put inside a restrainer, like a very small and tight locked container. And they wanted to see if the other rat would release this trapped rat without being given a reward or anything. And so what happened was that the rats took some time to kind of wander around the restrainer and try and find out how to release the rat inside it, who was showing signs of being in need. And so apparently the rats were able to release their cage mates, but then they would also go together and release the chocolates. So they chose both cages in the end and shared the chocolate. So what they found out through this experiment was that what we usually experience, which you didn't show any evidence of just now because you just wanted the chocolate, is emotional contagion. One baby cries, all babies cry, right? And sometimes they don't know what they're crying about, but they're all crying. That is emotional contagion. We can't restrain ourselves from feeling something for another person who is in need. It comes naturally to us. We have mirror neurons. There's mirror neurons that create that internal simulation of another person's experience. So when one person feels one way, you tend to feel the same for them, and you tend to end up feeling the same. So if my child comes back from school feeling sad about something, I start feeling really sad as well. I start feeling upset. I feel bad for them, but I start feeling it as well because of those mirroring processes that helps me understand what's happening to them. It's like a simulation of their feelings in me. I was talking about this to my daughter the other day. She's 8 years old, Mila, and Mila said, "Oh yes, like if I'm sad or upset about something and you play with me or tell me a joke or do something silly, like I tend to do, I forget I was sad and I was upset, and then I get happy." Because I first see her being sad or upset and I feel that way, but then I try to move her out of that state So I come up with something happy or something silly, and she ends up feeling happy and silly. It's that emotional contagion. So acting on empathic feelings to help someone in need is actually a biological mandate. It's something that you will naturally do. You can't help yourself. You can't restrain yourself from helping someone or from wanting to help them. You have to see later if you can actually put it into action. Yes, I see you. I feel you. Exactly. Yes, in the chat box. Thank you. So less about rats and babies and more about teachers and students. What does empathy look like in a teacher? So according to Cooper, a teacher who teaches with empathy is accepting and open to their students' wants, their students' needs, their preferences, accepts their suggestions. Also, they say you need to be interested to be interesting. Your students will not find you interesting if you are not interested in them first. Be interested in them first so that they can find your lessons interesting. Okay. Listening, genuinely listening, which doesn't always happen. We think we're listening, but sometimes not so much. So we want to give them focused attention, show that they're valued through our listening, give them sole attention, give them focused attention, be positive, be role models, directly praise students, have empathy for others in your classroom as well, understand the rest of the individuals in your classroom, use your students' names, give specific feedback, and have a lot of enthusiasm about your subject, because that is a way that you're going to get them to also be enthusiastic about your subject. It's going to be those mirror neurons that are going to help, or that emotional contagion that is going to help them have the same enthusiasm as you have, and that same sense of empathy to show that that is what is valued in your classroom. But it's not simple enough as this, because Cooper also talks about other areas of empathy in teachers, but we're not going to go into all the different areas, but you can read more about it if you want to. It's not only about the teacher being empathic towards his or her learners, it's about developing empathy in students. So the empathic child, who is a child in your classroom, but will become an individual in society, so it's the empathic individual really, is one who appreciates diversity because they've started to understand that there are different people in the world, different countries, different cultures, how we can be the same, but how we can be different. And we're all happy about that, and that's seen in a positive light. It's better, they're better equipped to cope with challenges because they're not shocked by things so much, because they've been able to practice those skills in a very safe environment, which is the classroom, in a safe way, where you're just rehearsing these life skills. It is a life skill. So they have the chance to practice it or rehearse it in the classroom first. It builds healthy relationships. They feel like they can be themselves. They feel that they belong. This is social emotional learning, isn't it? They learn to communicate in more respectful ways. They learn to disagree in a respectful manner in the long run. Maybe not when they're very small. It's a difficult skill to learn to disagree in a respectful manner in a foreign language. It's a big objective, but at some point they will get there if we start with them when they're small. They can negotiate better. They can understand where others are coming from. Develops a collaborative, problem-solving and decision-making and critical thinking skills. It's easier to problem solve when you can look at problems from different perspectives. And if you're just looking at it from your perspective, you might not be able to solve the problem alone. Identifying your own and others' emotional states and be able to express emotions and understanding the emotions of others when you see it in them, being able to identify them, and you can reflect on hurtful behavior. So it's really important that individuals become these kinds of individuals, don't you think? So how do we do the practical? Okay, a few ideas here because there are so many ways of doing this. Thousands. So I can't fit them in here, but these are just some ideas. And maybe you will like some of these, maybe you already do some of these, and maybe these will trigger other ideas that you might come up with. So if it does trigger any other ideas, please write it in the chat box so that we can all learn from everybody's ideas. Know your students. First of all, know them well. I know that in some classrooms you have large classes with lots of children in the class and it gets really difficult. It's not something you have to do on the first day. Now you know everyone. Second day, everyone will be involved because they're all catered for. Okay, it's not going to happen that way. It's of course going to take time. We're going to try to cater for everybody at whatever pace we can and whatever pace is realistic. Okay, so these kinds of activities, which are get to know you activities, are not just for children to just complete, fill in the gaps in these STEM sentences, but it's actually for you to go back and read and take notes and then listen to them or read about them and take notes about what they're really interested in. So, shh, listen, genuinely listen to their interests, to their unique talents, to their abilities, what they prefer to do in class, and be seriously interested in valuing their voice and their special selves. These are great activities, but they need to serve for you to document these strengths and these interests and address everybody's preferences at some time along the year. Use those strengths. So if someone says, I'm good at singing, okay, well, bring in songs to the classroom because someone is good at singing. So that's perfect. And I'm sure that lots of other children will like that singing lesson as well. Or I like playing Minecraft. You say, oh yeah, that boy's on the PlayStation all day. Yeah, okay, but we can build a lot of vocabulary through Minecraft. My son, Alex, he's 11, and he's learned so much about precious stones and minerals from Minecraft. He talks about quartz and cobblestones and redstone and emerald and amethysts and which are real stones and which aren't. And he goes, that doesn't really exist, Mum, but this one does exist and this one's used to build da 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 da. So that's what he's interested in. And he knows so much vocabulary about stones. And that's all because of Minecraft. So maybe we can do a little project about what children are interested in. Or maybe they can come and tell everyone else. Show and tell. Bring your joystick and explain to everybody what the buttons are, but do it in English. Okay, it doesn't have to be too complicated. It could be something easier. But try to listen to what they're good at and to what they like. And try to include it in your lessons as you go along. Not everyone on the first day, but have that checklist with you. Another way to do something very similar is to take a walk in someone's shoes. And you can find lots of templates for this online. And when we put ourselves in others' shoes, we explicitly teach children to be more conscious of others and others' feelings and be more sensitive to what that person is experiencing. And they're less likely to tease or bully or ignore other people if you get to know them better. And you might find things in common. This child says, likes to go bowling with their family, and maybe I do too. Or maybe I don't go with my family, but I would love to go bowling one day. Maybe we can go together. So it's really interesting to see what children will include in their shoes, and then perhaps they can swap them around and everyone can take a little walk in someone else's shoes, or they can come and present their shoes and we can have them displayed on the wall, and then that will be a reminder for you as well. If there's a text about bowling in the book, then oh yeah, Caden, you like going bowling with your family, remember? Yeah, so you can talk about that. Caden likes drawing spaceships, so maybe if we're doing a unit on space, we can bring that up and they will feel much more special. So we include them in a really nice way. On Cooper's list was listening. Listening is a huge feature of being able to have empathy. If we don't listen, if we don't pay attention to people, it's really difficult. to be able to have any empathy to someone. So one of the most common obstacles in relationships is that active and effective listening becomes really difficult, more so nowadays, where our brains are divided in so many different things and we're multitasking and we've got screens at the same time. So often individuals don't listen to one another in conversation as effectively as we should. And many times we're just looking at our phones or thinking about something different because so much is happening. So how do we listen, and what part of the body do we use? So if I ask you, how do we listen, or what part of the body do we use to listen? You would usually say, you use your ears to listen, right? Okay, but this is whole body listening. How do you think we listen to our entire body? Can you choose one of these body parts that you can see on the screen and write in the chat box how you think that body part helps or hinders proper learning and listening? How do we listen with our feet, or how do we listen with our brain, or how do we listen with our eyes? Can you choose one of those body parts and tell me how you think it helps or hinders listening? Just a body part. Okay, we've got one. Eye contact when talking with them. Observing, thinking, and focus. Yeah. The senses. Yes, we're using our senses. But how do we use our senses to listen? With your heart, you feel more connection, not just words. That's really good. So you're getting there. Yes, good. Listening with the heart means more than just hearing words that just come in and flow out, but rather they're attaching to your heart. It's a different way of listening. Yes. Hand gestures, eye contact, amazing stuff. So let's have a look at these ideas, but they're not the only ideas. You might think of something else. Eyes, you're looking at the person who's talking to you and you expect them to look at you. It's really important to make eye contact when you're talking. Ears, both ears need to be ready to hear. That's the obvious one. Mouth, quiet, no talking, no humming when someone's talking, no making little sounds when someone is talking, little noises. Hands need to be quiet. They need to be in our laps or in our pockets or by our sides or behind, wherever is appropriate in your context. Just keep your hands still and quiet. Don't be tapping on the table. Feet need to be quiet on the floor. Your body needs to be facing the other person who you're talking to or who's talking to you. Your body needs to be that way. You can't be twirling while I'm talking to you. Your brain needs to be thinking about what is being said and needs to be really focused, not thinking about other things that I've got to do later on or what happened to me before, or multitasking, but really focused. And your heart needs to be caring about what the other person is saying. Yes. Connecting. Yes, Joanna, that means connecting. Positive listening, even. Yes, absolutely. Now, this is a really nice activity that I like doing, and you can adapt it however you want for the level of your students or whatever works for you, which is object empathy. So we help students understand the concept of empathy by personifying objects, using an object like a person with feelings. So students are asked to become everyday objects or think of an everyday object and put themselves in the place of the object who is going through something as if it had feelings, and we're going to be seeing the world from their view. So it's quite creative. So pay attention, listen carefully, listen with your eyes and with your mouths and with your hands and with your feet and with your whole body. Listen carefully and imagine. If you want, you can close your eyes so you can imagine. You are a worn-out school bag. You are a school bag resting in the corner of a busy classroom. You've been dropped carelessly on the floor, lying half open with books and papers sticking out. Children rush past you, some stepping on you without even noticing. Finally, your owner picks you up, shakes you around roughly, zips you up, but leaves a book behind on the floor. How do you feel? How do you feel being that worn out school bag? Bad, with capital letters, humiliated, ignored, lonely. Maria says storytelling is the most engaging activity. Well, yeah, this is a tiny little story, isn't it? Yes. Exhausted, being treated that way. What would you say if you could talk? Would you say something to anybody? If you could talk, how would you express yourself? Left out? I would want to be seen, sad. Yeah. So what would you say if you could talk as this school bag? What do you think you would say? You're stressed. Have mercy on me. That's great. See how creative you can be with just a little tiny text. I need some care, please. Please make me look lighter. Don't you have a heart, man? I am your own part. Don't do this with me. Don't leave me. Lovely stuff. You see how you start expressing yourselves. And it's not you talking, it's the school bag, you, the school bag. I'm useful. So you can use really different contexts for this, make it easier, make it more difficult, depending on the level of your students. You could be an empty tube of toothpaste in a dark drawer, a park bench, feeling used by different people every day, getting rained on, being slept on, a forgotten toy, a coin being passed from hand to hand. How does that point? Or what is the daily life of this object? You could describe its daily life, see how it feels to go passing through its all the different moments of its life. So of course, as Maria said, I think it was Maria, literature, little stories or bigger stories in literature give us excellent examples of empathy and the way different characters feel and how they view the world, and invites us to stand in their shoes and see the world from different perspectives. So a story that I really, really love is The Smartest Giant in Town by Julia Donaldson. It's an excellent story to explore empathy because it beautifully shows how this giant notices others' needs and imagines how they must feel and takes action to help. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about this story. Meet George. George was a giant, the scruffiest giant in town. He always wore the same pair of old brown sandals and the same old patched up gown. I wish I wasn't the scruffiest giant in town, he said sadly. So, what he does one day is he goes to a clothes shop, a very posh one, elegant and sophisticated and fancy clothes, and he gets some new clothes. These are the clothes in the middle of the screen that he buys, and he feels like he looks so smart. He's the smartest giant in town now, not the scruffiest. But as he walks home, he meets different animals in need, and he can't help but imagine how they may feel. These are the animals he meets on his way home. So could you help me? Ah, Mary, yes. Look, yes, Mary, lovely. So you can see in the pictures, there's a giraffe who's very, very cold. So what does the giant give to this giraffe? He needs a scarf. But the giant hasn't got a scarf, so what does he give the giraffe? The tie. Yes. And for the goat is on a ship or a boat, actually, a goat in a boat, which doesn't have a sail. So the giant gives the goat his shirt to use as a sail. And it goes on, and Mary just wrote it for us in the chat box. if you want, you can see the pictures here. My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat is a sail for a goat. My shoe is a house for a little white mouse. One of my socks is a bed for a fox. My belt helped a dog who is crossing a bog. But my trousers are on a very small orc. I'm the kindest giant in town. Yes, he's the kindest in the end. So what the animals write is the whole letter to him that you can see on the screen. And so they give him a crown at the end of the story. So here is a very fine crown to go with the sandals and gown of the kindest giant in town. So he's not the scruffiest, he's not the smartest in the end. He was so proud of his new clothes, but he saw other animals that others that were in need much more than he was. For him, it was only clothes, and for them, it was maybe a house or a sleeping bag or a path or a scarf, not to be cold. So yes, it is a lovely story, isn't it, Samar? What we can do with these kinds of stories is, of course, just the story itself is excellent to create these feelings of empathy and kindness and generosity, and maybe ask the children, would you have done that? Do you think you would have done that? So this is how the giant ends up, without many clothes on at all. And a really nice activity to do is hot seat, which is a drama strategy where a chair is placed at the front of the class and it's designated as the hot seat. And you can put a black sheet on it or something to make it important. And a character from the story, so one of the children as the character, sits in the hot seat. It could be the giant, and they're going to be questioned by the rest of the class. So we could ask, were you happy when you gave your clothes away, or did you feel sad when you gave your clothes? How did it feel when the animal said thank you to you? Why did you give your tie to the giraffe? Or how did you feel when you saw the mouse? The mouse's house was burning down. So you can ask different questions. If these questions are a bit difficult, you can always just go into the character description, and you don't need to go into so complicated questions if they're too complex for your learners, depending on their level. But then it's always interesting to ask the other characters in the story as well, so you can see the perspectives of the others. How did you feel when the giant helped you? What do you think about the giant now? How can you help your friends? Would you do the same if you were in the same situation as the giant? If you could thank him, what would you say if you could speak? So any kinds of questions that you think your students can handle are fine for this kind of thing. But it's also important to go back to those 3 elements that we looked at before and notice that in this story we have the cognitive empathy, which was the first thing, the imagining of what the animals were going through. Then there's the affective empathy, that the giant could understand the feelings and the perspectives of others. And there's also the empathic concern, which is when the giant takes action, that action that really makes a difference. So we also have those course book stories. Many stories that you find in course books focus on values, incorporate positive examples of the values and inclusive actions and empathy and respect for others. They do mostly include values. So stories of kindness and show how people do different things and can be different and how we can help others to achieve more. So in this little course book story, it's called You Can Do It. So at the beginning of the story, there was a friend who couldn't swim, but the rest of the other friends decided to help this boy to learn to swim. So they helped him, they gave him classes, they taught him how to swim a bit better. And at the end of the story, go Dad, you can swim. So it's as simple as that sometimes. It doesn't have to be too complex, but there is that inclusive mindset. Different people can do certain things, other people can't do things, but not yet. But we always have a possibility to be able to learn things. So we can always try and help those who can't yet. So that's the power of yet. At the beginning of the story, Dan couldn't do it yet, but at the end of the story, he was able to do it with the help of his friends, the assistance of his friends. So there are lots of these types of stories in course books, and Share It is a really good one if you're using Share It. This course book is especially good for promoting empathy. It also has the shared world pages where there's lots of topics of interest of children. Children like to know what children do in other parts of the world and what other children are interested in and how they live their lives. They're interested in seeing other children. So this is cultural awareness. This is understanding others and diversity. And so these kinds of activities where you share the world or cultural lessons are really important to help children see this from inside the classroom, because they might not get the possibility yet to live it in real life, but maybe when they're older they will need the ability to understand others that are not doing exactly the same as they are. And teach the language of empathy, because what does have some empathy, what does that mean? Or be polite, what does be polite mean? Or respect your classmates, what does that mean? So it's interesting to think of ways of making it, again, more tangible. What exactly does that mean? What does it sound like? How am I supposed to do that? It's very abstract. So make it more visual, more concrete, give them the tools, the linguistic tools, those words or those phrases or expressions that they will need to have empathy for others. They can't just do it because you say so. You need to teach them what kind of language they can use in English to have empathy in English. So words and phrases that show care and concern, or to show kindness and respect, like, are you okay? Teach them that. Or help, please, because asking for help is really valuable too. Or do you need some help? It's lovely to ask others, or I can help you. Give them those set phrases that they can learn. Even please and thank you or excuse me. Those are really important words to be able to use to be respectful to others. Or you did a great job, or let's share. Really simple language that you can teach. And so here I've put on the screen a positive language poster that you can download if you scan that QR code. There are also some cards that you can download and print out and cut out and use them as little cards to do different games. And all this information and ideas to use these resources are in the Little Book of Inclusive Teaching, which is a lovely resource, loads of ideas for inclusive practices in the classroom that I had the privilege to write together with Macmillan, put together. So I hope you've scanned those, and you will find all the ideas in the Little Book of Inclusive Teaching. Okay, and encourage your class to write poems or chants or raps, not only read stories or read poems, but also create them yourselves. So in this Little Book of Inclusive Teaching, you will see different ways of doing this. And one of the ideas is using a class poem or a class chant. So in our classroom, we all share. We help our buddies with a helping hand. And they're very simple things that you can get your students to provide those phrases or expressions, because they are on that poster or on those cards that you can use in your classroom. This is all language that you will find there. So it's easy for them to come up with those expressions and those phrases because they've seen them and learned them before. When they know them, you get them to create this classroom chant with you. Of course, you're going to be there to help them create it. And it doesn't have to rhyme. Not all poems rhyme, remember. And last but not least, of course, always lead by example. Remember, we all have empathy. It comes natural to us, but it's just a matter of noticing how we can use it, going from imagination to understanding to actual action. The impact you have on your students and your classroom dynamic is huge. So it's a lot about what you put into the values of your own classroom and the culture that you create in your own classroom. You can't expect empathy if you don't practice empathy. You can't expect respect if you don't respect your students. So as an educator, your actions and your words really have a profound impact on what happens in your class and how your students behave. So I think that these are things that you have to live and you have to experience to be able to do them yourself. So it literally changes the culture of your classroom. So we all have empathy, but do make it tangible and noticeable to your students in your classroom with little activities. So now I'd like to know how you think you would like to foster empathy in your classrooms. Are there any practical ideas that you would like to take? Is there anything that resonated with you? Any reflection that you're doing and you're thinking, I should remember this in my classroom next? And while you think and you write in the chat box, I'm going to be reading a few things that I found interesting, where Maria says, if I was there, I would give him a hand. Dad taught me to be generous above all. We are teaching them empathy towards their peers. Absolutely. And that was a lovely story. Yes, of course. I think Macmillan will be providing the slides after, together with the recording. So I think so. Yes. So if you could share with me what it is that you're taking from this session. Is it an activity? Is it an idea? Is it something you're reflecting on? Is it remember to take action, not just imagine how it is feeling, but actually take action? What is it that you're taking, please? Maria says we must be empathic towards ourselves to teach them to be too. Absolutely. No, don't forget about yourself. It's really important to show that as well, of course. Maybe there's a difference. Yeah, okay. Listening with the whole body, that's really important. Remember, we can't really empathize with others if we're not really actually listening to them. So that's really important too. Absolutely, Sana. So just before I go, I've got a tiny little poem that I would like to share with you for you to keep thinking about this and thinking about how you would feel if you were someone else. How would it feel to be me? I'm a goldfish lost in the sea. How would it feel to be me? I'm an elephant as big as can be. How would it feel to be me? I'm a snail as slow as can be. How would it feel to be me? I'm a child who dropped my tea. How would it feel to be me? I'm a friend with a hurt knee. How would it feel to be me? I'm a teddy left by the door. How would it feel to be me once more? What if we all stopped to look and see and wondered softly, what if that were me? Thank you very much, everyone. And I'm going to be reading all the rest of those comments in the chat box later. Thank you for sharing and thank you for participating. Thank you very much. Lovely stuff in the chat box. Thank you. You're going to be using Miss Empathy Finger. Very nice, very nice. Yes, I'm sure Macmillan will be sharing the resources, right? Nathan, will the PowerPoint be shared?
Well, I think it would be.
The recording, at least.
It's definitely being recorded. The
Yeah.
recording will go onto our YouTube channel. But it would be it's not ironic if I didn't share, considering the entire theme is all about sharing. So we are here to share. I'm sure we'll put together everything that we feel like is useful. Usually we would condense the slides, just take the most kind of poignant points and combine them together. But yes,
Amazing.
we will do our best and reach out within the next week with everything to kind of follow up and help you guys turn some of this stuff into action. So of course, I mean, I can say thank you, but there's a ton of thank yous going through the chat box. We ran over a little bit because me and Leo took ages at the beginning to get us started. So
it was Leo's fault. It wasn't yours.
no, it's nobody's fault. In our classroom, we're time free, but I'll keep the follow up kind of short and concise. I mean, I'm so glad that we did this. I remember when we first met and we were brainstorming ideas of things, and it was interesting that first comment was about passion, because I remember saying, choose something. I want you to choose the topic that you're most passionate about. And then you said, I really want to do something on empathy. And I was like, sold. Like, what a great topic. And I think I mean, I use the phrase a lot, this idea of how we feel affects our ability to learn. I totally believe that. How our students come into class, what's going on with them. And there's so much going on for our students. We quite often think that, it's just there in the moment, like, oh, are they misbehaving or are they concentrating or what are they doing? But actually they bring a lot of things with them. And a lot of students bring a lot of weight. There's so much conversation now around student well-being and teacher well-being. I saw in the chat people mentioning things like burnout. So I think this idea of talking about empathy is such a key topic. You fed into the other webinars really nicely. There's stuff in there around curiosity. I love stories. I love books. I love using them with students. I love using them with my own daughter as well. Like, I think one of my least favorite words in ELT is the word vocabulary. Like words, like they're alive. This is what gives us culture. This is what gives us identity. And so stories, all that stuff you're talking about, bringing things off the page, getting them to talk, getting them to relate, and students can do that. I think.
Yes. Sorry, yes, and no, I was going to say, connected to what you say about vocabulary, that really resonates with me because I always say to the teachers that I work with that vocabulary, in the end, we're always focusing on vocabulary, but in the end, vocabulary comes in so easily because that's a tangible thing. And that's what I was saying today. There are so many concepts that are so abstract. So how do we get to understand those abstract? Yes, there will be vocabulary, of course, but there will be lots of lovely phrases and wonderful expressions. And that's how we speak in real life. We don't speak by using words alone and pointing at things. Well, babies do, little children do, but at some point you start using language to communicate, and to communicate you need to use phrases and expressions. So it's not only about learning vocabulary and it's not only about learning grammar, but it's about being able to express yourself. And you do that through learning or developing skills like empathy or respect. And what kind of language do we use for that? I think that is the main point, really, more than being able to say a list of vocabulary words. I think, yeah.
You express yourself. And I think one key takeaway from the presentation you've given, and there's lots of takeaways, but this idea that empathy as a skill, A, it can be learned. B, it can be learned probably a lot younger than people would imagine that it can be learned. Even down as young as 18 months, they're starting to understand that actions have consequences. People are responding to things. Somebody's upset, maybe they give them a toy. They're starting to practice these skills. And another thing you're really mentioning is this idea of structuring it in the classroom. It's a skill that's structured and practiced and modeled and praised. This really came through quite strong for me.
Yeah, yeah, and what you say about the younger they are, the better. Yes, and I focus a lot on pre-primary teaching as well, and we see that a lot. There's a point when children start becoming very egocentric and they just think about themselves, and that's a really good moment to start getting them to look at others and play with others. They play alone a lot at that point, and so play with others and start learning these skills from a very early age is really important. So we start seeing all this development very, very early on. But it's interesting to also know that we can use our empathy in a different language. We're not only being showing empathy for others in our own language, in our own culture, in our own ways, but also I'm learning a different language, and I'm also seeing empathy in a different light, and I'm learning how to use this empathy using different kinds of words than those that are actually mine in my language. So that is an interesting way of, that bilingual brain is starting to understand the concept in different languages as well.
Which is an important point there for teachers, actually, because that's the first point of modeling, right? Understanding that it's difficult for them in the first place. Empathizing with you guys are young and this doesn't make any sense to you and you don't know where you're going to use this. Like, I understand that, and then just seeing that from that, I guess that's the first point. Yeah, it's really nice.
Yes, sometimes it's creating intentional situations where children are asked to use phrases like, can we share? Can I help you? Sometimes we create those situations intentionally, like providing not as many red pens as we need on the table, and then they have to share. So then instead of fighting about it or arguing about it, they will have to ask, can we share that red pen? Yeah, so sometimes we have to do it intentionally as well to get them to use that language in the classroom.
Again, that key point about practicing it, because I think when it comes to empathy, I think we often tackle empathy at, I don't know how to say it, the point of intervention. Like when something happens, that's when like we say, like Miriam, like make sure you share,
Yeah.
rather than like having a conversation with them and practicing that skill, and then saying, "Can you remember what we practiced?" And then giving them the opportunity to see if they're able to put that into practice.
I think if we create a classroom which is considered a safe space for everybody, it's a really good place to practice something that we might need later on in a difficult situation. But if we wait for the difficult situation to happen, they've not learned that skill before. So I think we need to anticipate that, and it has to be practiced, rehearsed beforehand. So when they get to that challenging moment, that's the moment when they know how to do it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree. Okay, I'm gonna let you go. We could talk about this for the whole evening, I'm sure, like all day. And I know that the other guys are probably in the back room thinking, like, I want to talk about this as well. I want to come on to this. I've got ideas. So I'm going to let you go for now. But again, I know that we've got that little book of inclusivity that you wrote. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of things in there that will help these guys come up with ideas to make that classroom empathetic and inclusive, getting students to really think and reflect and um, all of these types of things. In fact, it reminded me, if you go to the website, there's another webinar next week, which is all around involving parents. Because I think this is also a key point within this particular topic, is having parents practice those skills and helping them to understand the importance of not just vocabulary and grammar, but um, this idea of how we feel and well-being. Sarah, thank you so much. If you can stop sharing, I will re-share so I can introduce our next speaker. Thank you so much once again. We love having you with us. It's been an absolute pleasure. We've loved your slides, we've loved your ideas, and we'll look forward to, well, hopefully, and I should have asked at the beginning, we're hoping to get Sarah over to Morocco in 2026. So if there's anyone from in the chat box, please let us know because we are super
Say
excited.
yes, everybody. Say yes.
Super excited.
Thank you so much. Yes. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Nathan, for organising. Thank you, Macmillan, and everyone behind this. And I'm sure you'll have a great session with the next speaker and the following today. Thank
Thanks so
you so
much.
much.
See you soon.
Bye for now.
All right, I'm going to share my screen once again. Give me 1 second. I hope you guys all enjoyed that. It's such an interesting topic. I'm sure you'd agree, and there's so many wonderful ideas in there. Let's start from here. Need to share. Hopefully you can all see my slides again. So we're going to move on very quickly to the second session. I am not going to take any more time. I take way too much time in these webinars. I have so much to say. I can't control myself. So now we're going to welcome onto the stage in a few moments our second speaker, which is Donna Shaw. Donna is one of our authors. She's a co-author with Mark Ormerod on one of our newest titles, which is Curious Kids. And I was privileged to spend some time with Donna in Morocco, actually, this year. So I know how wonderful this session is also going to be. She's going to be looking at curiosity as a topic. We think about empathy, and we think that empathy is like sharing and being nice. And we often think that curiosity is just, being interested. But I think we're going to find out that it's a lot more than that. And she's going to be linking that into communication. So linking it to the ELT classroom and communication and speaking activities. And she's got 5 strategies that she's going to be sharing with us in this session.
Hello.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Hi, everyone.
Welcome. How are you doing?
Oh, fine. Wonderful. I'm just thinking about empathy, really.
I know, yeah, it's on everybody's mind now, I'm sure.
I know.
Hopefully it's not a distraction, got to focus in.
No. I also talk about empathy in this talk, so it's lovely to see that we follow on quite well from each other.
All links in. And I love that little video. It's got such a catchy tune. I was like dancing away to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that you can start.
Okay. I need to put Nathan. I need to put the chat on, don't I?
Hopefully everybody is curious about what these 5 strategies.
Yes, after this. Okay, you should be able to see that now.
I can, yeah. If you can just, yep, full screen. Amazing, cool. Right. So again, I'm in the background. If you need anything at all, I'll also be watching the chat box. And
Oh, okay. The thing is, I can't see the chats. Okay, yes, I can just drop it across there. Perfect. Now I can.
amazing, cool. And I will see you in 40 minutes or so.
Perfect. Thank you, Nathan.
See you in a bit. Bye.
See you in a bit. Okay, hi everybody. I'm going to start this webinar by telling you a story so you can relax for a few minutes. It's a true story about a time, a moment in my life when I felt very, very curious. It took place in the UK, and I guess I was about 8 years old. So one summer afternoon, my family decided to go for a walk. And first, we walked along a woodland path that looked a little bit like this one. Now, I remember that it was cool in the woods and the ground was damp. And I could smell the soil and the plants, and I could hear the birds singing. But eventually, we came to the end of the path and we stepped out into bright sunlight. And when my eyes had adjusted to the light, I saw that we were on the edge of a big field. And it looked a little bit like this one. The grass was long and yellow because it was the end of the summer, and there were some big trees dotted all around. It was then that I saw something very curious. On the other side of the field, there was a person standing completely still under the tree. And that person was holding a very large, brightly coloured object above their heads. So my family decided to investigate. And we started walking towards the tree. As we got closer, I saw that the person was a man and the object he was holding was an umbrella. Well, I was astonished. Why was the man holding an umbrella? It was a sunny day. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. And what's more, why was the man holding the umbrella upside down? We continued walking to the tree, and when we got there, we stopped and watched the man. First, he picked up a big stick and he hit the tree, a branch on the tree, 3 times. Bang, bang, bang. And then he picked up the umbrella and held it above his head. Almost immediately, we heard a sound, pitter-patter, pitter-patter, pitter-patter. And when it stopped, the man put the umbrella on the floor. It looked a little bit like this. Well, imagine my 8-year-old self. I was bursting with curiosity, but there was a problem. You see, I was very, very shy. Eventually, my curiosity overcame my shyness, and I plucked up the courage to ask a question. Excuse me, what are you doing? The man explained that he was an entomologist, a scientist of insects, and that he was using the umbrella to catch the insects that fell from the tree. When I asked why, he explained that he wanted to count the insects and to classify them. And then when I asked, why do you want to do that? He explained that he wanted to see if there were lots of different insects, because a variety of insects was very good for the tree. Now, in that story, I was incredibly curious. But what exactly is curiosity? Well, it's generally understood as a feeling, a desire to learn or know something. Now, that feeling can be quite mild or it can be very, very powerful. And it's not surprising that curiosity is strongly connected with learning, successful learning. Now, academics have identified different types of curiosity, but when my co-author, Mark Ormerod, and I were writing Curious Kids, the course book Curious Kids, we decided we wanted to focus on 3 of those. The first one was diversive curiosity. Now, this is the most common type of curiosity. It's a reaction to something new, strange, or exciting. I felt diversive curiosity when I saw the man with the umbrella upside down. Now, it's a very, very powerful motivator for learning, but it doesn't last very long. Once the curiosity is satisfied, it can quickly decrease. The second type of curiosity that we wanted to focus on is epistemic or intellectual curiosity. And this is a desire to learn more about something that interests us, to gain a deeper understanding. And we typically see this in children when they ask the question, why or how? Just as I asked the scientists, why are you collecting the insects? Now, epistemic curiosity is very, very important in learning because it creates intrinsic motivation. It encourages active, independent learning, and it also promotes higher order thinking skills like creative thinking or critical thinking. Finally, the third skill is something now you're all familiar with, is empathic curiosity. And this is curiosity about the thoughts, experiences, and feelings of others. Now, when we trigger children's empathic curiosity, we help them to become more compassionate and socially responsible, qualities that we know are really, really important in today's world. So how does curiosity support communication? In my story, my curiosity allowed me to ask the questions to get the information I needed. And we know that curiosity supports communication in a number of different ways. It supports language growth. I mean, this is important. We are language teachers. When children are curious, they're going to be using more open-ended questions like why and how. And this will increase their ability and their confidence to express themselves. When children are curious about a topic, they're going to be more interested in learning more vocabulary connected to that topic, or should we say words connected to that topic. And they're more likely to try out the language they know, to use all their language resources to try to communicate, to ask the questions and find out the information they need. It also increases engagement. When children are curious about something, they're going to be more willing to participate, to join in an activity, and they're going to focus for longer. They're also going to be more willing to investigate a topic they're curious about and to work independently when they do that. Again, something that Sarah mentions, the importance of active listening. When children are curious, they're going to be pay closer attention to the speaker and not just the words they're saying, but also the expressions they're using, the expressions on their face and the gestures they're using. All that is going to help them to understand. Also, children who are curious are less likely to interrupt the speaker. And also, it helps to break down barriers to communication, such as shyness, embarrassment, fear. This is because when children have the opportunity to get to know each other, to learn about each other, they develop more trust and a better understanding of each other and a sense of belonging in the classroom. So the big question, how can we use children's curiosity to promote communication in the classroom? Well, today I'm going to present some ideas for sparking children's curiosity and show how we can use that curiosity to get them communicating. I'm going to ask you to share your ideas a little bit later in this webinar, and I am going to be using some material from the course book Curious Kids. So the first strategy is to create moments of surprise and novelty in the classroom. This is because things that are unexpected and new capture children's attention and trigger their diversive curiosity. So, and we're going to look at how we can use visuals to create surprise and novelty. So one thing we can do is to use curious real world photos. Now, in all levels of Curious Kids, there are curious photos that are connected to the unit topic. Now, this photo is from level 1, and we can see a multicolored squirrel. Now, this isn't a squirrel that has been created by artificial intelligence. It's a real squirrel. It lives in the south of India, in the forest there, and incredibly, it's very, very big. It's 1 meter long. Now, children are usually surprised and excited by this image and are keen to talk about it. So the first thing we can get them to do is to name the colours on the squirrel. I can see yellow, blue, purple, orange, a little pink nose. Okay, after that, we can ask learners to share information about that they know about the colours of animals. So tigers are black and orange. Some birds are green and blue. Now they can do this activity in class, or they can at home find a picture of a colourful animal or draw a colourful animal they know and bring it to the next lesson and share the information with the rest of the class. We can also use show children images or photos that are not quite what they appear. So this encourages children to look more closely at things. Now, this photo comes from level 4, and if we look carefully, we can see that the portraits are not painted on paper or on whatever. They're actually painted on a brush. Now, children usually find these portraits funny or curious, and we can use this curiosity to get them to create their own portraits. We can draw, and they can draw their portraits inside the outline of a brush, and it can be a portrait of a classmate, a portrait of a family member, of somebody in their community, or even a famous person. And then they then show the portrait to a partner or to the whole class and describe it for their class. I think it's a lovely thing to do. You can create a class display of the children's portraits, and the children can write a little description underneath. Okay, the final visual thing I'm going to talk about are these posters, or in this case, a big scene, a busy scene on the page with lots to look at, lots to explore. Now, I live in Spain, and here in Spain, there's a series of books called Where's Wally? Children love them, and they have to find the character Wally in the scene. Now, this scene comes from level 2, and it introduces the topic of clothes. And if we look at the first lesson, we can see that children have lots of opportunities or different opportunities to explore the picture. In activity 1, the children work as a class or in pairs to explore the picture and report what they can see. They can do this by pointing and naming the different things they know. And they can do this in English or their own mother tongue. At the bottom of the page, there's also a curiosity corner. And this encourages learners to look at the picture more closely. So here they need to find the items of clothes that have these patterns. And then finally, at the bottom of the page, the children have the opportunity to look for and find recycled items of vocabulary in the picture. In this unit, it's recycled animals, and the children can either write or say the words. Okay, so lots to do. However, these scenes also provide us with an opportunity to play simple question and answer communication games. And these games are fun, but they also allow children or require children to listen carefully to their partner, to collaborate with each other, and to successfully convey and understand the message. Okay, the question and the answer. And we can play these games as a class with the teacher taking the role, or we can ask the children to work in pairs. Now, I asked some of my students what their favorite games are that we play with the books, and I'm sure some of these are familiar to you, but I always think it's always worth reviewing them, remembering them, because sometimes we forget them and we forget to use them, and these are very effective. So in the first game, I Spy, one child chooses an object in the picture and gives his part or her partner a clue. So I spy something beginning with her if you're using phonics, or H if you're not. Is it a hat? No, it isn't. Is it a horse? Yes, it is. Now it's your turn, and the children swap roles. We can also, instead of the letter, we can also give the clue of a color. I spy something blue, and the children are really going to be scrutinizing this scene. Is it a sweater? No, it isn't. Is it a skirt? No, it isn't. Is it a bird? Yes, it is. The second game is one of my favorites. It's a mime game. So again, one child chooses an object in the scene and then has to mime using that object or being that object and ask the question, what's this? For example, what's this? Can you tell me? I'll do it again. What object is in the scene that I'm miming? Getting dressed, but what am I wearing? It's one thing. No, it isn't a shirt. It's a sweater. Well done. Okay, and the last game, again, very simple, is a true or false game. So one child has the book open, the other child has the book closed, and the child with the book open makes a statement about the picture. The other child listens and from memory has to remember if it's true or false. So the skirt is red. It's false. Yes, it's false. The skirt is yellow. It's true. Yes, it's true. So we can see the children are going to be working with each other, building that trust, and also building their confidence with the communication. Now, for me, a great thing about these scenes is that we can return to them, back to the scenes from previous units at different times of the school year, and we can play the games again and again. This revision is fun. It's always going to be fun for the children, but it has a very important function because it helps to transfer those words from the learner's short-term memory to their permanent long-term memory. Okay, so we've looked at how we can use visuals to spark children's curiosity. And now it's your turn. I'm sure you use you have different strategies, different things that you use in your classes to get children curious. Maybe at the beginning of a project, maybe at the beginning of the lesson to get them awake and ready to learn. So what things do you do? Could you share your ideas? Because I think between all of us, we can come up with a great list of ideas. So how do you get your children to be curious? Ooh, a mystery box. I like that. Fatima, what do you put in the mystery box? Okay, brainstorming ideas. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's always quite exciting, exhilarating for children. A mystery box. That sounds so exciting. Hot seat. Wonderful. Yes. Okay, acting out, covering their eyes. Okay, a picture, role play. Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, these are going to get children excited and curious. Puzzles, facial expressions. Okay, lovely, lovely ideas. Well done. Okay. Ooh, a scavenger hunt. Okay, using real objects, experiments. Okay, creating what's next. Okay, memory games. Super, super wonderful ideas. Wonderful ideas. Very inspiring for everyone. Okay. So the next strategy we can use is to include questions for curiosity, and this is more a classroom management section. Now, we all use closed questions in the classroom. These questions have a small number of answers, usually yes or no. So we have, is it cold today? Do you have fun at the weekend? Is it difficult to live in space? Now, closed questions are an important part of our teaching, of our daily classrooms, because they allow us to check understanding very quickly. And if we have a large class, we can get the group of children to answer at the same time by using the thumbs up or thumbs down method. However, I think it's important to also provide children with opportunities to respond to open questions. These questions typically begin with the question words. What's the weather like today? How do you have fun at the weekend? Why is it difficult to live in space? Now, open questions help to improve children's communication skills because they're using more language to form the questions and to answer it. But also, they can spark new ideas, give children new ideas, and to get children to think more deeply about the question and what their thoughts about the question are, or their opinions or their feelings. And all of this will increase their curiosity with the task to sustain that curiosity. I'm going to show you an example from level 5. This is a story activity where children are going to give a personal response to the story, and the story is about some children in Thailand who were trapped in caves when it started to rain and the cave filled with water. And fortunately, they were rescued after 3 days. So the questions we have, the open questions: do you like the story? Why? Why not? What's your favorite part of the story? Why? How do you think the children feel? Now, this final question stimulates empathic curiosity because it asks the children to put themselves into the shoes of the children in the story, to think how they would feel or in that situation. And this is something I heard Sarah talking quite a lot about in her webinar. But all three questions encourage children to engage more deeply with the story, which then creates a desire to communicate their ideas, what they think, their opinions. Because again, children have a voice, and it's important we give them opportunities to share their ideas. Saying that, it is children need support. We need to scaffold this. We can provide sentence stems for the answers. I like the story because my favorite part is when I think they feel okay, and this will start them off, get them going. We can also give children thinking time before we ask for them to answer. This gives them time to really think what they want to say and what their thoughts and feelings are. And we can also get children to report or give the answers, tell the answers to a partner. So they have a practice of giving an answer before they share their answers with the whole class. Okay, so we've looked at using open questions to sustain and stimulate curiosity. We can also use big questions. And these are questions that have no simple answer. Everybody could have a different opinion. And they are used a lot in education because they provoke thinking, get children thinking about a topic. They stimulate curiosity and they create a genuine desire to investigate. Now, in Curious Kids, each unit of work begins with a big question. In this, how are families different? This comes from level 1, when children learn mum, dad, sister, brother. What's amazing about animals? This comes from level 3. And from level 5, why are trees important? And then throughout the unit, the children have different opportunities to think about and to investigate the question, so that by the end of the unit, they're able to answer it in a personal way, to give the information, to then share it with the rest of the class. Okay, and then the third strategy to help children to learn about others. And this is something, again, that Sarah was talking about. This really does help to help to develop children's empathic curiosity. And this may involve learning about their classmates, learning about their local communities, or even children like them in other countries. Now, I'm going to show you one of my favorite activities for developing children's empathy. And this is an activity I often use at the beginning of the school year, where children can find out about their classmates. So first they have to draw in their notebook or on a piece of paper around their hand. And then they work in pairs to ask each other questions to find 5 similarities. In this example, students need to find 5 things they both do at the weekends. And they use the structure. Do you play football at the weekend? Yes, I do. No, I don't. When the children find an activity they both do, they write the activity in the finger. And when they have written 5 activities, they can give each other a high five. We can use this activity with other closed questions like, have you got? Would you like to? Or can you? And then I think also by giving a high five at the end, children celebrate that they've done something together, they've collaborated successfully. And also as teachers, if the children are working in pairs, we can see when the children have completed the task. So it's a good classroom management tool. We can also introduce age appropriate. Oh, sorry, we're jumping ahead. We can also use quizzes and questionnaires. These are great for finding out about classmates. And in Curious Kids, there are lots of them. This feature is 5 quick questions where the children have the opportunity to ask 5 simple questions. Here we have, can you speak Japanese? Can you play chess? Can you use a computer? Can you prepare your breakfast? And can you say the English alphabet in 15 seconds? Now, I can't say the English alphabet in 15 seconds, but I remember when I was in Morocco in April this year, in one of the events, a teacher brought her son, who was, I think, about 9, and he took the challenge and he said the English alphabet in 12 seconds. Everybody applauded him. He was amazing. But importantly, I was Marrakesh. Yes. It was fabulous. So funny. So yes, these 5 quick 5-minute questionnaires help build children's confidence in using the language, but also increase that trust when working with the partner. Okay, and that's really, really important to develop that trust and empathy and a sense of belonging in the classroom. I was Marrakesh. Yes. Well, how lovely. Okay. And the third thing we can do is to help children learn about others is introduce interesting and age-appropriate content about life in other countries. For example, this blog, this is from level 4. The children learn about what's special for some children about living in Cape Town in South Africa. We can see that it recycles the unit language, which is there are, and there's also some recycled language, like I can do this here and I like this. What's very important, I mean, children love this. It's very interesting for them to see how children live in other countries, what they eat, what they wear, how they go to school. But I think it's also very important that when children are learning about other cultures, they also have the opportunity to reflect on their own culture so that we can reinforce and celebrate their own cultural identity. Okay, it's not just learning about children of the country, it's learning about themselves and who they are, where they live. And so we can help them do that by asking questions about what's special about where you live. Where they live, are there special cities or special places? Now the children, I don't think could do this in English on their own. So this is something that the teacher would direct and support the children. And at times they would have to use their native tongue, but that's okay because the teacher then can paraphrase or support them in using the language. Okay, moving very quickly on, we're going to go to strategy number 4, which is to encourage children to investigate. And I think we can do that by tapping into their interest. This is something, again, that Sarah talked about, the importance of knowing what children are interested in or passionate about, and also their sense of wonder about the world. When they're little, everything is new. The world is an incredible place. So many things to see and to know and to learn. Now, earlier on, we saw how we could use big questions to investigate or to trigger investigation. But we can also give children very small investigation tasks that are linked to the topic. And this makes the language more meaningful and increases their curiosity. So here's one from Curious Kids 5. It's a curious question, and it's something I didn't know before I started writing this book, and I was looking for curious facts. Can you write yes or no without Googling it on your phone? What do you think? Can hippos swim? Yes. Yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, no. I think mostly yeses. Any more? Obviously they can. Yes. Okay, I'm going to stop you there. Most of you have said yes. You're going to be very surprised to find out that hippos can't swim. They can move underwater, but they can't swim independently. They move by walking or by jumping through the water. Uh, so the children are astonished when they find out. Has my laughing face. Okay, another thing we can do to encourage children to investigate is to use a KWL chart. And this is especially useful for projects, which I think is something you're going to see later on with Ola. But these charts allow children to share their knowledge of a topic and plan together as a class what they want to investigate in the project. So in the first step, the whole class brainstorms what they know, for example, about London. And the teacher can create the column on the board and write everything the children say or that they know about the topic. Once they've done that, the children then think about what they want to know, and there's lots of things they want to know. And this section actually takes a little bit of time because children can be quite shy to ask their questions. So we have to be quite patient and do a little bit of prompting and be very kind with them here to get that information. And then those questions then form the basis or will be integrated into the project. Oh, here we go. Hippos are fast. That is an interesting fact. Okay, so at the end of the project, the children go back to that KWL chart and they look at those questions and then they record what they've learned. And that's a good visual record as well of the project. Okay, and the last thing is when Mark and I were choosing topics and thinking of material for curious kids, we were very keen to think about children, to tap into their interests and their passions, because to really grab them and to really make them want to dive into the material. So I think we've got here. Well, sorry. Here are some examples that we chose. In the first picture is from level 5, and it is about space. Why is it difficult? Why is it difficult for people to live in space? Now, this topic introduces the past simple verbs. But the vocabulary that we introduce is daily routines. Now, obviously, what's more interesting, daily routines in their daily life or as a daily routines of an astronaut? How does an astronaut brush their teeth? How does an astronaut eat their dinner? How does an astronaut have a shower? Obviously, later on, when the children are then starting to personalize their the language, they're going to use the language to talk about their lives. They will talk about their everyday lives. But at the beginning, to get the children curious, we talk about the everyday actions of a person in space. The second adorable photo is from level 1, and it's about the topic is animals, and the question is, pets. The question is, what is the question? Yes, they learn about pets and where they live. The third one is from level 3, and it's about technology and how technology can help us. And then the fourth picture, we're going back to level 5, and is about films, and children love films, and why people find them so enjoyable. Why do people enjoy watching films? So I've got another question for you now. Okay. With these were topics that Mark and I thought children would be interested in, would be curious about. I'd like you to think about your students, your learners. What things would your learners love to investigate? Are they interested in sports? Are they interested in oh, hippos? That's funny. Okay, so animals for sure. Singing, songs, ants, animals, technology, space, TikTok. Wow. TPR games. Yes. Anything related to technology. But yes, gaming. I think this is something as well that Sarah talked about. She talked about Minecraft. Heroes, very important. Superheroes, real world heroes, football. Okay, I know Morocco next year is a big year for football. Yay. Okay. Okay, so again, the important thing is really to really think about children's passions and then use their curiosity to motivate them. Okay, and we're going on to the last strategy, and this is to help students communicate creatively. So when children investigate and find out information, it creates a desire to share it, to share what they know, this exciting information they found out. And I think it's important that we provide opportunities for students to communicate in creative ways. Now, earlier in the webinar, we saw some 3 big questions from level 1, 3, and 5. And I explained that during the unit, the children have the opportunity to investigate those questions in different ways. And that by the end of the unit, they're able to communicate the information they found out. And what Mark and I tried to do was to create fun, but also creative ways for children to present what they found out. So for the question, first question, how a family is different, each child creates a little picture of their family, and then the children all together stick their pictures around the world to create a portrait gallery, as if they're in a museum. And then the children then can stand next to their picture and answer the questions from the other students. Who's this? This is my mum. My mum is tall. And who's this? And maybe we can have half the class standing next to the picture and half the class going around the gallery to ask the questions. And then afterwards, we get them to swap roles. We also had the big question, what's amazing about animals? And in this activity, the children create their own amazing animal, but they use all of the information they've learned. So they learned about scales and fur and feathers. And I'm sure you're familiar with this activity where you fold the paper and one child does the head, one child draws the body, and then one child draws the tail, and you open it up and you've created this amazing, fun, creative animal. We can get children to write a description of that animal, which is always very motivating, and then they can show their animal and describe it for the rest of the class. And finally, we had the third big question was, why are trees important? This was from level 5. And the final task in this unit is for children to create a garden for a community. And they think about what they want to grow. Do they want a tree? Do they want a bench? Do they want swings and slides? And I know I've been told from teachers who've used this material that some classes have actually made their models of these gardens with plasticine and have created a display for other children in the schools to use. So we've come to the end of the talk, and I just want to quickly read this webinar to give a resume of what we've seen, the 5 strategies. So we've looked at how we can create surprise and novelty in the classroom, to activate their diversive curiosity and encourage them to communicate. We've looked at how we can include questions for curiosity, and these might be open questions that will encourage deeper thinking, and big questions to trigger this desire to investigate. And both of these can help to stimulate and sustain children's curiosity in a topic. We've looked at the importance of helping children to learn about others, and how this will develop their empathic curiosity, and how important it is to share information about their own lives and their own cultures. We can also encourage children to investigate, tapping into their interests, their passions, things that they find exciting. And finally, we've looked at some ideas to help students to communicate creatively. So that motivation is going to be sustained right to the very end of the unit. And they create something that's creative, personal, and very memorable. And I can't finish without sharing this quote by somebody who greatly inspired me, Sir Ken Robinson. If you don't know him, I really recommend finding some videos of his. He's an inspiring person, educationalist, and his quote is, "Curiosity is the engine of achievement." And I think that's it. Thank you, everybody.
And thank you. I'm back. How are you doing?
You're back. Hi.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
People are really like focused and like rethinking about these topics and thinking about like the impact of curiosity and how there are different types of curiosity. We think about, I mentioned at the beginning, we think about curiosity of just, in like just that investigative part, like go and explore, go and investigate. But actually, there's so many different elements to it, and they play into other aspects of what students are doing in the classroom. I like the way it kind of segued into Ola's there at the end, thinking about how it can even tap into giving them ideas for writing, could give them a reason to write. Because I think for young learners,
Exactly.
a reason to write is a tricky one for teachers. We want them to produce the structures. We want them to use the vocabulary that we've been teaching them, but that's not from a student's perspective, thinking about empathy.
Yes.
It doesn't always translate to them. Like they're just like, well, I mean, yes, I've kind of remembered it, but I don't have a reason to use it. So that idea of like them creating something, and I think that this is one of the things I really liked about Curious Kids. We spent a lot of time together in Morocco.
We did.
And
Yes.
we talked a lot about Curious Kids, and we were looking at the units, and there are quite a few things about a unit, and even if teachers are not using Curious Kids, I think there's quite a lot they can take away and
Of
use some of
course.
those on whatever coursebook they're using. One is the fact that I like the fact that it flips almost the unit opener. It puts the expectation on the students to do the work, because traditional unit openers were like, here's the information you need for the unit, whereas this is like, I'm presenting to you, but you need to actually use those critical thinking skills. You need to use your own innate curiosity to start engaging with that topic. And I was thinking, you were mentioning movies a little bit. This is what movies do, right? They not so much anymore because they give us like all the movie in a teaser trailer now. But back in the day, they would create a little teaser, right? A trailer, which is like
Yes.
if you're curious about wanting to go to the cinema to watch the movie.
Hmm.
And we can do that same thing with a unit, right? We don't have to just say we're starting unit on Monday morning. You can actually use the first part of Monday's lesson to kind of introduce and get them curious about and hook them in, I guess. It's a psychology thing there, I think.
Hmm. No, absolutely. I mean, it is a grabbing the children's attention and getting that motivation going. It's the heart of learning, I think,
Yeah.
curiosity. And I think it's very important that there are these different types of curiosity, so we can use those at different stages of our lesson or the project we're doing. So we, and even I was talking to a teacher the other day, and I said, "What do you do to get your children curious?" She said, "Do you know? Sometimes I have the same routine. We have our starting routine, but sometimes I just change the order." And
Mm.
just doing that, the children suddenly gets excited and sit up. And
Yeah.
another teacher told me that she has a class puppet, and sometimes she hides the puppet. You have a class puppet. She hides the puppet, and the children have to look for it. And just again, that's doing something slightly different. It, triggers that curiosity, and the motivation will follow. The motivation to learn. The children are going to be engaged, and they will learn much more, I think.
Yeah. So I guess the takeaway from that then is it doesn't need to be like you don't have to do so much planning. It could just be a simple tiny thing. Like
Yes, yes,
like each week the puppet will be in a particular place, or they'll be like sitting there reading something or looking at something like, and you can set that as like as a kind of common theme that kind of runs
yes,
each unit. They're going to see, I don't know, they'll see Leo and he'll be sitting with my phone looking at something, and they have to go,
yes.
oh, what is it going to be about, type of thing.
Well, well, absolutely. Well, let's think to the beginning of the webinar. The teacher's idea. It's the mystery box. I mean, you can't get anything more curious than a mystery box. What's in the box?
Yes, absolutely. And I think I mean, I've worked with so many teachers, and that mystery box is a really popular one. And I think it's popular because it goes back to something you said right at the beginning, which was around this idea of multi-sensory learning, is it allows teachers to be able to get te students put their hands in, even if you haven't got, all the items of clothing or whatever it is. It can be slips of paper they have to pull out and
Yeah.
read something. It can be anything. Again, it can be simplified depending
Hmm.
on your own teaching situation.
Hmm.
Some people are in high-tech classrooms, some people are in very rural areas with big classes. You can simplify. Yeah, it's just a box. It can be an old tissue box, but bits of paper, all these types of things. But that idea of this diversive, I'm trying to say the right word, the diversive curiosity is that we need to give them variety, right? We can't just keep doing the same things the same way all the time. It's not that fun for them, but it's also taking away that opportunity, I think, for this type of curiosity, I think, for students.
Yes.
I've got one question for you, actually. We haven't done many Q&As in this.
Okay.
Because you mentioned Ken Robinson, and he obviously is very famous for this whole thing about schools in particular, kind of killing curiosity and creativity.
Creativity, which is very important for Ken. Yes.
And I think curiosity is in part of that because he mentions about the paperclip, I think, does he, in that clip.
Yes.
So my question for you, thinking about how things have changed in the modern world, is technology making us more curious because it gives us more access, or is it making us less curious because it's giving us the answers in a lot of cases?
Now, I'll answer this. I haven't thought about this before, but I would say that
This is a crowd.
we have the diversive curiosity. As I said at the beginning, this is the instant one, the most common type of curiosity. It's something that we've just thought about or we've seen something and it's satisfied very quickly. And then we use the phone again. And I think it's that epistemic curiosity, that more intellectual curiosity, that, learn going into more depth is the one that we are losing, I think, a little bit. And I think this is something we really do need to help children with, to give them some support with.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so being very supportive of our students and the changes within their society, environment, communities,
Yes.
especially around technology. I asked the question because I read something in a news article today, which was very critical of AI. It was saying that people are using it for things that originally would have been, like where are we going to go for dinner? And you would, and then we would look up a few places, or we would walk
Yeah.
around. But people are just not doing that. They're just like, I'll
Yes.
get back. It's giving us things so much easier that we're
Yeah.
not supposed to be curious. It does the
It's
work for us.
it's
So
very seductive. It's an easy way to go.
yeah. And again, I mean, the chat box is quiet. People might be thinking about that, but I don't know how people feel about that across the different markets, whether or not this is something that they're concerned about, or whether they think, no, actually, it gives us an opportunity to be more curious because we can,
Yeah, maybe.
because again, I think humans can be creatures of comfort. We'll go to the same restaurant every week,
Yeah.
given the chance. So maybe it pushes us to. There's a debate there. We'll have that on another day. Um, and actually, some of the other things you were talking about, this idea of wonder. So we mentioned that there are more webinars tomorrow, and I know wonder for very young learners. So this is pre-KG is one of the topics tomorrow. So I think that's going to be explored. Uh,
Oh, that's
it-
interesting.
yeah, and I'm looking forward to this one because obviously I have an 18-month-old. So this is like
Yeah.
into this kind of, and we've talked about curiosity. I mean, this idea of empathy is one of my favorite topics. Curiosity is another one of my favorite topics. As you know, I'm always like, get her out there. No matter how difficult it is, we'll figure that out. Like that experiential learning, that curiosity, and fostering that. And I think teachers can really help their students with this as well.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else you add?
I just want to say thank you very much to Macmillan, of course, for everybody who joined me. It's been a pleasure to share my ideas, and thank you for your wonderful responses, wonderful ideas. I really appreciate them.
Yeah, I think people got so much. I'm looking at the comments. People are really enjoying the strategies and the ideas and um, leading that curiosity. And you really brought that to the kind of communicative part, both within the unit. Actually, I think that's also very nice. This idea that the speaking wasn't just the end product of the unit, it was actually embedded into the activities with a high five. And then the end part was creativity, doing, making, connecting. Again,
Yeah.
that amazing. Thank you so much, Donna. We'll
Thank
look
you.
forward to seeing you again in the future. And
Look forward to it, and enjoy the rest of the event, everybody. Goodbye.
okay, thank you for sticking with us, everybody. This is like there's so many ideas, there's so many things that we want to cover, so many things that we want to talk about. But we really appreciate you guys. We really appreciate that you're here, you're sharing your ideas with each other, with us. This is what the festival, I think, is all about. But without further ado, I'm going to move on to our next speaker, our third and final speaker for this evening. And poor Ola, I mean, she's going to be looking at writing, and we were having a conversation in the back room, and she was like, "You guys are doing all this like fun stuff, and now I'm going to be talking about structure and writing." But actually, you're going to see that her ideas are going to weave a lot of these ideas, a lot of these topics into our ability or our students' ability to learn how to write competently and confidently.
Yeah, it is late, I agree, and it's been such a lovely evening. Um, and I hope you've got a little bit more energy for this bit. So,
Well, I think
yeah.
when it comes to anything to do with supporting or helping teachers to support students with writing, I'm pretty sure everybody is going to be all ears because I have traveled around this region for, well, many years now. And I think the number one topic, other than grammar, is how do we help our students to learn to write, to use writing, to write effectively. So I know you're going to cover quite a few of these topics. That song, I think it's nice. It's very catchy. It was from Global Stage, but we're going to be releasing a updated version of Global Stage next year, inshallah. So I know that some of your activities, I know some of your slides are related to the new product. So just to clarify, if people think that this is about Global Stage, it kind of is, and it also kind of isn't. Is that right?
Yep, absolutely.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that you can start sharing yours, and we'll see you at the end. Enjoy, everybody, learning about writing skills.
Okay, so actually, Nathan, thank you for sharing that song. It never fails. And I hope I've ignited everyone's curiosity with my background image right there. It's this is a page from Global Stage, which I'm going to talk about in this session. And as Nathan said, this session is mainly about Global Stage and the new edition that is going to be called Global Explorers. We're going to share some ideas and tips on how to encourage writing and how to give students a reason to write. And after such a full evening, let me invite you to this delicious celery juice. Who loves celery juice? Well, I need to bring the chat up. I don't know if I can. Here it is. Yep. So some people like it, some people don't. And I will also invite you to join our friend Brenda here, who loves to wake up at 5 a.m. to go for a run and have a delicious celery juice for breakfast, which is quite a healthy lifestyle, don't you say? And I know that writing feels a little bit like a marathon, and building it feels like doing these things every single day. And I'd like to borrow this quote from James Clear. He's the author of the amazing book Atomic Habits. And he says that results tend to accumulate to the person who enjoys the lifestyle that precedes the result. And well, you can see that Brenda is really fit. She is really reaping all the results of her hard work. And if you're anything like me, your gym shoes would be just for emotional support, aren't they? Somebody saying that they cannot hear me. Can you confirm that you can hear me? Yep, I hear you. I do not like waking up early and running, or I would totally, I'm totally a coffee person. But actually, what I promise you today is that this is exactly what we want to build with writing. Just tiny repeatable steps. But the good news is what we're doing today is way more fun than celery juice and running. And there's no green smoothies, I promise. And your students won't hate you by the end of this. So this is writing that builds itself. And yes, coffee is allowed. Okay, so before all that, why do we care so much about writing? Why is writing so important? Why do teachers everywhere like to measure, let's say, their success by how well the children write? Well, basically, it's not a wrong thing. And as much as writing is something tangible that we can measure, something that tells us that this student is really competent and have achieved very good linguistic skills, the way we see writing nowadays is that it's not only a way to show how they have achieved these skills, but it gives them a very good tool for learning later on. Very often we can see that writing is used to prepare for speaking, for example, to prepare for projects, just for the children to organize their thinking. And it helps them shape their voice and express what matters to them. And if they do not have this tool, they're really missing a lot. Problem is, very often writing is even more difficult for the children than these other skills that you want them to support, which is kind of a vicious circle, isn't it? We want them to use writing to shape other skills, but it's more important than other skills. And this is a reflection question that we are going to come back to later on. Where in your unit do students actually start writing? Do they start in the writing lesson or before? So let's look at this final writing task. We are going to present a unit from level 2 in Global Stage. Level 2 is for second graders, and this book is actually a high-level book. It's slightly higher in level than the previous 2 books that we've looked at, but the principles are all the same for children. So this writing task is about technology, and I want to ask you, what does a good writing ability look like to teachers? What do teachers imagine the best child writer ever? What would their writing look like? Let me look at the chat. Okay, so most teachers, ChatGPT looks like ChatGPT. So correct structure, yes. Solid structure, vocabulary recall, their ability to remember vocabulary quickly and rather playfully, actually. Grammar recall, we want them to have this flexibility in grammar, and we want them to remember the punctuation. We want them to be kind of flexible and automatic in using grammar. We don't want them to be thinking about grammar so much while writing. We want the writing to be meaning focused, sentences that matter to the child. And we would like also the child to think about their audience and writing to receive a reaction and leave an effect on an audience. But usually what happens, what we see is we cover the grammar, we force a writing task, we hope for miracles, and then the sigh comes because the child struggles with starting a sentence and they have an idea block. They just freeze with vocabulary, and we are we ask ourselves, well, they have been practicing the vocabulary, they know the vocabulary, they have done tons of grammar worksheets. Why isn't this coming in the writing? Why isn't it automatic? And they have the grammar freeze, they have to think of every rule, they forget the rules, and their grammar is all over the place, and meaning is absolutely not a focus. They want to be told what is expected, and their sentences are copied or rehearsed. And how many of you see this in real life? Our expectations absolutely shatter, and we just are faced with a mountain of things to cover in order for the children to come up with good writing. If it's not rehearsed, it's not happening. So coherent and cohesive, that's absolutely right. Someone says that in the chat box. And this is actually something that is very, very aspiring. At this point, we are struggling to even get them to write a sentence. And then that's the writing task. And actually, when we give them a project like this one, we want them to choose how to present their idea. But what happens if this is too open for them? If you can see these projects here, they are going to appear in the new edition of Global Stage, Global Explorers, and it actually asks the children to choose how they want their idea to show, how they want to present their final project. And when we are giving them so much freedom, this is what we call agency. But for them to have this agency, they need to have the tools first in order to be able to choose. Choice without tools is like not giving them a choice. So in order for children to be able to manage a piece of writing that they've never seen before, they need the rigorous scaffolding, the mastery of small structures, and they also need accumulated knowledge transferred beyond the unit, things that are imprinted in them, that have become a habit, and it transfers across units. This is what we are aiming for. How that happens is what we will explore today. So we want students to have freedom, to have agency, to choose how they want to present things. Agency is not optional. Agency is an essential skill that we want to offer our students. But you cannot choose what you have never practiced. You cannot pick confidently when all your choices are unfamiliar, can you? And here I want to quote one of the most inspiring ELT specialists in teaching English to young learners, Miriam Monterubio. I think she's still here with us. Are you there, Miriam? And Miriam says freedom begins with a structure. And I cannot agree more that you need both in order to create a child with agency in learning. You need to give them the tools to be able to choose what they do, to be able to pick their favorite way. How can they pick their favorite way of presenting when they cannot master it yet? So we can absolutely do that. And enough talking from my side. Let me start with a little game. I'm going to invite you now to use some of your grammar. I'd like you to write 3 sentences in present simple using these lovely adverbs of frequency. And very often when we ask students to write sentences in present simple, we just expect them to write correct sentences. And they end up saying, I always brush my teeth in the morning. Well, does brushing their teeth actually matter to them? It might matter if they're an astronaut, like the previous session, the lovely session by Donna. But here I'm giving you this with a twist. So I'd like you to write 3 sentences that you do every day that annoy your husband or wife or children or friends. Use these. And you can exaggerate, you can laugh at yourself. And here, this is my sentence. I always have my headphones on. I never hear the door, and I never answer the phone. And it annoys the people that I live with. So, yeah, I always shout at my kids. I rarely call my friends. Why do I have a feeling, Hala, that this is a lot of us? This is a lot of us. Yes, Nathan, just 3, please. I never answer any calls. Yeah. I know people who do that, and I do that as well. I'm guilty of that as well. I never yell or shout whenever my kids are around. I can see the cheeky smiley over there, Shahenda, and I have a feeling that this is one of the tricky sentences. Should we believe that or not? I always fly over speed bumps. That's hilarious, Sundar. Yeah, so what is happening here? You are actually writing 3 sentences in grammar, but yeah, you never eat cilantro. Yeah, I know that about you, Miriam. But you're not doing the grammar right now as a grammar drill. You are writing about yourself. You are thinking about something small and real, something that might make your children roll their eyes at you. What just happened is that you didn't freeze. You just wrote the sentences. You thought about what you wanted to write, and you had a reason to write something funny. You wanted us to laugh. You probably laughed while thinking about it. And because the structure is really simple, I asked you, I told you which grammar to use exactly. The stakes were fun, and everybody wrote quickly, accurately, and meaningfully. You didn't need a worksheet. You didn't need a rule. There's something similar that we're going to do today with Global Stage, that we will choose a little bit of humor to get the children to write things with purpose, and of course with way more support than what I've given you. I've treated you as teachers right now. All right. So the first lesson in this is vocabulary. Sorry, Nathan, I know you don't like vocabulary, but the thing is very easy to teach vocabulary. It's very easy to teach word. And for the children to practice recalling these while writing, we need them to start using them in writing as soon as they are introduced to them. So just copying these words, but with agency, with a very simple activity like choose your favorite gadget, copy the word using your favorite pen, decorate it, color it, draw it, and make the word feel like yours. Repeat any day, choose your favorite, change your favorite if you want, come back to the same word if you want. And this is how we start. Some of you are going to say, well, this is just the students copying the word. They are cheating. They are not really writing a sentence yet. But if we don't have them choose which words that they like, they will never remember how to choose them when it comes to the writing task at the end, can they? So something like that, an outcome like that, they are just copying one word. They are decorating it. They are trying with so many different pens and colors and crayons. And in this, you're giving them so many tools, so much agency, and they're giving them the chance to change their favorites more than once. And difficulty-wise, they're just copying one word. Imagine how much practice they are going to have without even feeling it. They have agency from the very beginning, from the start, and it will build up. And let's see how we will build that up. Day 2, look at all the words from yesterday. Which one still feels fun to look at from your words? Copy the same one again, or pick a new favorite. Try a different color or size. My favorite word today is, well, tablet is still my favorite, so why not? Let them just copy the word that they like. After that, we have a song, Living in a Modern World, and the songs in Global Stage are really catchy. But here we have some sort of a twist to it. We ask them to pick a favorite sentence that starts with I. Just pick your favorite sentence and copy it. As simple as that. Here, yes, again, they are copying, but they are copying a full sentence from a song that they have practiced, from something that they have said and held in their head. What we say is that always hold the sentence in your head, and they just choose and they copy. So they might copy, I can learn about the word. They can copy, I can listen to the radio. I use my tablet. I use a cell phone to talk to you. They just copy the whole sentence and they get to choose it. This is another step. At this point, they are not composing yet. They are interacting and expressing agency, expressing choice. And moving on from the vocabulary and from the songs and context to the grammar. And how grammar is presented in a book like Global Stage is that it's always presented in a comic strip, and we call that context that matters to the child. Here, it's a funny context about a grandpa who's confused about technology, and the little boy is helping him, and there's an annoying friend who never ever replies to his phone. So at the end, they write an email, and they are asking him to answer his phone. I have a friend whom I have to do that with. I email her to answer her phone, which reminds me of our friend here who rarely answers their phone. There are always ways around it, right? So, and here it's presented like that in order to introduce grammar with humor. And then you can see the progression of how grammar is, how we ask students to interact and engage with the rules without even controlling this, without even producing the sentence yet, but they are engaging with meaning. And you can see in the workbook how the progress happens until the children are free to write their own sentence and express their own meaning. But how do we take this into a more gradual approach into that pours into writing at the end? So here, right there, these are sentences that the students are going to rearrange. We all like rearranged sentences, right? These are pure focus on form. They are really, really controlled grammar practice. But then once the sentences are written, let's see how we can twist them a little bit. So make it yours. Choose one sentence that you like. Again, they get to choose which sentence that they like. Copy it and then change one small thing, but choose the type of change. You can either make it true for you, or make it funny, or make it not true on purpose, which we call a trick sentence. Here, the children are going to in a very supported way, they are going to produce a sentence, almost copy it, but they are going to change one detail that they get to choose. Now the structure is supported, but they are practicing the freedom of choice of ideas, which is the first step for them to write. And see, from the beginning, we often think that in order for the child to have freedom, to have creativity, they have to master the language first. And that's not entirely true. They can start practicing creativity and freedom and generating ideas on their own, even before they master the structure. They come hand in hand, because once they do that, the structure will stick in their head better. So examples of what they might do is, my dad never watches TV, my cat never watches TV, and they mark it as a funny sentence. I rarely play video games on my tablet. I often play video games on my tablet, and this would be true for them. My grandparents often listen to radio. My grandparents never listen to the radio, and this would be not true. And a secret rule is that we can give the children is, do not tell anyone which type you choose. Others will try to guess, which actually get them more curious to learn about each other and to guess what is the type of change that they chose. Is their sentence funny? Is it tricky? Is it true? All by just copying and changing one small detail into a sentence. And let's take it a little step forward. So we give them a mission, and it is a really nice idea to have a stack of cards in an ice cream box in your classroom with some of these missions that they can just pick up in the pockets of time in the classroom. Writing doesn't need to be, especially these controlled writing practice, they don't need to be their own lesson. They can happen in pockets of time, fast finishers, or after they have finished eating, or if they have just a free time waiting for something. They are so enjoyable for children that they get to enjoy doing them in these pockets of time. And it increases the amount of time that the children spend writing at school and even at home if they want to. They can write on empty papers. They can write between two lines if they want. Leave the choice to them. They can choose to write with crayons, write with pencils, write with pens, whatever they choose, whatever makes them feel safe and connected to the writing. It doesn't need to be tidy or neat at this stage. So here I am the teacher, Misala, about Misala, and children love to tease their teachers. They love to guess facts about their teachers, and they love to ask their teachers questions. And if you encourage them to make funny sentences about encouraging to find things out about their teacher, write funny sentences, and they're going to love it. And whenever you as a teacher bring a piece of you into the classroom, this is when something awesome happens. So don't be afraid to share some real life details with your students and get them to write things about you. So my teacher never plays video games. This is a funny sentence. I sometimes help my teacher with the tablet. This happens, by the way. This generation is way more tech savvy than we will ever be. So yes, I would expect to see this sentence a lot. And it's all within the grammar that they have been practicing and learning. All very controlled, gradually takes them from one step to another. See how it builds itself along the way. So this is after they have done the reading. The reading in this unit is about Clara the Inventor. It's a super fun, super engaging piece of reading. It's a rhyme. And here the children are going to read about Clara and her invention. And their mission, their teeny writing mission here is they choose one line or one word that they like from the story, and they copy it. So here, for example, the child has chosen this invention, which is it's a big cleanup machine. And then they make a small change as usual. They say a small cleanup robot. The umbrella pen becomes an umbrella tablet. So they get to experiment with changing the ideas, changing a little detail of the writing. And right here, they are not even writing a complete sentence yet. Small activities that make a big difference at the end. Want to go for the next step? Let's take it one step higher. Now, we are introducing in the same unit the present continuous. It is introduced in the same unit. And here, as you can see, it introduces, so the fun comic strip, Mom is talking on the phone, that thinks she is talking to him. And she says, shh, no, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to Louise. And then we can see that child is doing 2, 3, 4 things at the same time. And it's so funny because he is multitasking, and he is kind of writing his homework, and he's drinking the juice, and he's talking to Mom, and he's texting Dad, all at the same time. So the context of introducing the grammar is quite hilarious, and it is like that in most of the units. And then let's see how we're going to take that into a mini writing activity that pours into the writing later. We start with an activity like this. And if you look at the picture, these are silhouettes. They are super easy to create using AI. I've done these using Copilot. And just show the children silhouettes and let them guess what these children are doing. So they're going to say it first. She's talking on the phone. He's listening to music. She's watching TV. And then they're going to copy it and change one small thing to make it funny or true. So it's the same pattern. Write the sentence and then change one detail of the sentence. Children are going to be super curious to guess these things. And it's going to give them a reason to speak, a reason to use the structure without feeling the pressure of is R-I-N-G. Of course, you're going to teach them the grammar. Of course, they're going to practice the grammar. But then we have to drag them back to a meaningful activity. And these sort of activities are so much fun. They are engaging, and they will get the children writing. The more they write with purpose, the more they will master these skills, and it will show in the end of the unit. These are for you, actually. These are not from Global Stage. So can you write a sentence about what he is doing? Just him. Do not think about the other two. Just this one. Can anyone guess using the present continuous, present progressive, what he is doing? What is he doing? Yeah, I want to see curious teachers here. What is he doing? He's fixing something. So yeah, you'd think, Dina, you would think he's fixing something, searching for something. Yeah, you could, Patricia, he could be searching for something. He's playing the drums. Ooh. It's probably a chef decorating a cake. I love that, Chenda, because you're absolutely spot on. He's cooking, and I really like pictures of guys cooking because yeah, she is flying and he is cleaning. He's putting on the box. Nathan, you're hilarious. But yeah, Shahinda, you absolutely got it. And these kinds of activities get children really curious about using present continuous. You can pick any pictures that you want, just shade it in black, and there you go. You can even get the children to do some of these themselves. He thought he was soaking with a monkey. Yeah, the silhouette was kind of tricky. Back to the book. So let's transfer this into a little writing activity. What is happening in each picture? Look at the comic and then talk about it together. Mom is talking to Luis on the phone. Dad thinks she's talking to him. Luis is messaging Dad. Luis says he's doing his homework and he's drinking juice too. So the children are laughing at the picture. They start sharing sharing details about what they can see, and they're using the present continuous over and over and over again orally. And turning this into a writing activity, look at this little robot behind. And the robot is watching. What do you think the robot might say? So he's talking and messaging and drinking juice and doing homework. He's doing everything at the same time. So children can build on that. They have a reason to laugh at this and just building on their sentence. And right now, it's not even a complete sentence yet. They're starting with a complete sentence and adding more words to it. The reason that they are doing it is that it is fun, it is hilarious, and it's from the point of view of a robot, of an astonished robot. And if we build it even more, we can ask them to imagine that their own gadget is alive and looking at them. Which one is looking at you today? And then they write 2 sentences, one from the gadget and one from you. So Ola is drawing a picture, says my tablet, and I reply, yes, I'm drawing a picture. And they can add a small drawing to their gadget, watching them, looking at them, just like the robot was looking at them and at Louise in the picture. Just an example of how you can get the children to use present continuous in fun ways, either in first person or in third person, like they were taught in the unit. And then after reading Clara has a mirror that changes the actions. So they can actually turn that into their own writing. You can prompt them to write one true sentence about what they're really doing, but then the mirror changes it. See how the mirror here changes Clara's image from, it says here, oh no, I have long purple hat and a big long nose. So the invention is a mirror that changes the appearance. So they can use that actually in the writing. And this is how these creative writing pieces in Global Stage can drip a little bit into the children's choice of what they write. What are they doing? They are still practicing the present continuous, but they are choosing what to write gradually, step by step, expanding their ideas. I'm talking to my friend. The mirror says, Ola is singing to a bird. They can choose whatever action they want and then change it to a funny one according to what the mirror says. And the way these sentences are built, we have practiced adverbs of frequency, choice of vocabulary, choice of their favorite words, choice of everything that they like to do, choice of using present continuous, and what changes they can make into the sentence. They actually wrote sentences about their teacher, and they wrote sentences about other people. So if we look at this writing lesson over here, if you look at the detail, after doing all that gradually, after paying attention over and over again to these details, all while going through the lessons of the unit, they will be more than ready to tackle a writing task like this one, or a reflection task like this one. So what technology do you use? They're not going to have a problem answering that. They will have done it many, many times. How often do you use it? They will have answered this question many, many times. You can even give them a secret mission to ask anyone in the school how often they use technology, how often they use things. You can assign names of other teachers, even the principal of the school. And in order for them to try to write true sentences about them, they will have to go ask them. So if the child is confident enough to go to the principal and ask them, how often do you use a tablet? How often do you use a computer? Do you use a cell phone every day? Or do you often use a cell phone? And they're going to find it really, really fun. And some of them will find it a good reason to write a sentence. They can post their sentences anonymously on a class wall and try to guess if these sentences are funny, true, or tricky. They can then choose their favorite sentence and copy it and then change it to become true about themselves. You can do all sorts of things using very many writing activities that gradually builds their ability. By the time you reach the final task, you will find that they have become really familiar with the structure. They have become really confident with. They are going to write it seamlessly. If they do not do this every day, when they come to the writing task, you will find that they will struggle. They will most likely try to remember things and don't. They will become slower. And it's all about what they are doing every day to build this writing. It's not about what they know. It's about what they do to reinforce and practice this every day. So back to the question, writing is both a goal and a tool. Reflection question number 1. Where in the unit do students actually start writing? And we are starting at a word level. Whenever they learn the vocabulary, they learn to choose their favorite, express their preference, laugh with it, express themselves by drawings and things like that. And for you, skills-wise, they are copying over and over again. And you can ask them to copy in their notebook many, many times, and they will see it as a chore. But if they have the choice to choose their favorite, they're going to copy it using a million different crayons, and you get your goal and they get their choice. Another question is, are my students writing with choice every day? If they're not doing it every day, there's something missing. It's never going to happen for them if they are not doing it every day. There's an activity that I often ask teachers to think about. I would ask them to close their eyes and imagine the school day from the perspective of children. Let's practice some empathy here and put ourselves in the shoes of children. How much time do these children sit down and wait for their turn? How much do they sit down until you find your flashcards or you find your worksheets, or until you're ready to start? How much time do they spend waiting in line doing nothing? How much of this time can they be spending writing in small, colorful, sticky note size papers, or A3 papers, or A4 papers, the size that they like. They are practicing. You are sitting and watching them evolve with minimal effort. Some children are going to progress very quickly. Some children are going to remain at a word level, but at least they are doing it with choice. And once they start writing sentences, they are going to also write it with choice. It's the amount of scaffolding, but it's the amount of practice that they do every day. And the final question is, are my students enjoying the writing or not? If they're laughing at it, if they're thinking if it's true or not true, if they're actually choosing your reaction, they are writing something funny to get a reaction from you, to get you to laugh. They are writing something that is cheekily not true, but is a choice. They know what the truth is, and they're writing something that is not true just to say that it's not true. We're not encouraging them to lie or anything, but we really want them to think about meaning while they are writing. If they deliberately write an untrue sentence and want you to guess which one is true, which one is not true, they're actually thinking about meaning, not form, which is what we want. Again, a small grammar chunk, you can experiment with it, a lot of meaning. And this is why sometimes nowadays in most English language coursebook, we do not prefer concentrating on completing a rule. So you do not need to teach all of the adverbs of frequency all together, all at once. You do not need to teach all the aspects of a tense with all negative forms and affirmative forms and everything at the same time, because it's not about a rule. It's about giving them a structure, a mini grammar chunk, and then explore meaning with it. And this coursebook is built around that. From a chosen word to a chosen detail in a sentence, agency forms. Support, it leads to agency at the end. And my final word would be, you do not need to aim for the impossible. You just need to make the start really easy. And thank you for listening.
Thank you for sharing, Ola. I think I love this session. It's I think it's a really powerful session in the way that it's so supportive of the student, from the student's perspective, on how to build writing up scaffolded from us bit by bit, and then that idea of making it enjoyable as a process, making it fun, getting them to do really simple little things. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of nice comments, because I think people really like this session. And I think it is a really powerful session in terms of really supporting students with. I personally, I mean, again, I've worked here, same like you, I've worked here for a long time with lots of different schools. I do feel like expectations in terms of writing can often be very high, and irrespective of segments and what type of school and what type of exposure students have outside of the classroom. And I think that expectation is forced upon teachers by parents, especially. You know, they're like, my kid's been in year one for 3 weeks. Like, why are they not writing paragraphs? Like,
Yeah.
the expectations from parents, I think, are really high. But also from administrators, from tests, from ministry tests, and just the whole kind of system, and how students feel about that, how they see that system, how they fit into that system. And some thrive, some just get it. It just comes to them, right? But for the
Yeah.
majority of students, I think these types of tips would be really useful for them, and really useful for teachers to help them simplify and not see writing as something huge. I'm not asking you to write Harry Potter. I'm asking you to have fun and play. I shouldn't have said about the vocabulary thing at the beginning, but being playful with that vocabulary, bringing those words to life by making them colorful, making them sparkly, making them, I don't know, using their hands, cutting things out. All of these types of things just help them to move things around and make sense of things. So I loved it. Thank you.
I love that you love it, Nathan, and you're absolutely right. It's important to think about the average children and how they think about writing. It's more than their ability to compose sentences and compose paragraphs. If you give them choice from the beginning, it's going to happen for them eventually. The most important thing is, I think, is not to expect too much too soon, but try to build this gradually into a habit, to give them the identity that they are actually writing, rather than getting them frustrated about the writing. Writing is something to be enjoyed and to be practiced, and they will get the habit of it eventually.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe there's an element, we use the phrase like unlearning and relearning, right? So for us, it's unlearning that expectation that writing is just something to prove that students can put pen on paper. And actually, it's not. It's this whole day. And you talked a lot about this fluency versus accuracy thing. You were making me think of that quite often through the webinar. Do we focus on fluency or do we focus on accuracy? Should we focus on one before the other? Should we give one more percentage weight than the other one? There's lots of debates that teachers can.
I have seen teachers try to. I mean, teachers are wonderful. They are just trying so hard to adopt the fluency versus accuracy thing, and I have seen them encourage children regardless of spelling, regardless of grammar. But I have also seen teenagers whose writing is absolutely lacks the basic grammar, which is, now we need to stop. Yes, we want to give them the freedom, but we also need to pair it with proper structure, but not focus on structure, which is a very hard thing, yet a very easy thing when built properly, when thinking about structure in a meaningful way. So yeah, we're trying, and good luck for the teachers.
Yeah, good luck to them.
Yeah.
I think actually I think Leo has a question. Does Leo has a question? He does have a question. He's going to ask a question. It's a difficult question for you, Ola, but
Oh God.
How do you see AI changing teaching of writing in the future? Do you think it's going to change the way
God.
writing? Quick one.
Yeah. In terms of, it has changed the way we write, hasn't it? And a lot of people debate that the use of AI has prevented us as adults from improving our own writing, because AI obviously writes things for us. And this is a question for the future of, is proper writing actually going to be as important as it is now? Because and I think it pours into the idea that the outcome of the AI, it can write tight sentences for you, but you are the source of the idea. So perhaps when we reinforce this thought for children, that we should really think about ideas more than structure, in the future, they might not even need to be very meticulous about writing. But it's a scary thought, isn't it? You absolutely do not want to encourage that. You do not need to write properly or write correctly just because AI will do it for you. But think about it as typing versus handwriting right now. How often do you write with a pen and paper, Nathan? You never do. I know you are a tech savvy person. You never use pen and paper. I've never seen you with a pen and paper.
I'm not even that tech savvy. Yeah, no, I don't write with.
And you're not even that tech savvy. So everybody thought that, well, typing will deprive children of the ability to write properly. But it hasn't changed. We still make children write with pen and paper, don't we? But we focus less on things like cursive writing. So perhaps in the very far future, we will start focusing less on eliminating redundancy, cleaning up your writing, proofreading too much. But this is for the future. For now, whether
Simple.
AI will change our way of teaching writing, the only way it will change is it will help you create more writing prompts. It has definitely helped me. So it's, but it is as good as what you put into it. And this is what we should enforce in our learners. You can put things into AI, older learners, but it's only as good as the input that you give it, the thought, the idea. It's a language model. It's not an idea generator.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to
Yeah.
draw from a certain perspective. Yeah, and sorry, you mentioned the word prompts there, which just
Yeah.
reminded me that Ola has very kindly put together, I think there's like 10 or 11 prompts as a connected handout to this session, which will go alongside the slides, which we'll send out in the follow-up email with those other resources. So you guys can use those very practical writing tips straight away in your classrooms, which I think is great. So thank you, Ola, for that.
Yeah, you're most welcome. I hope you enjoy them, and I hope you use one or two in your classroom tomorrow.
I hope so too. So we're going to wrap up. I'm going to share my screen and share the last couple of slides. Thank you again, everybody, for sticking with us right to the end. Did you have a favorite takeaway? I'm going to ask this question while I'm sharing my screen. We've had 3 different sessions, and there's been a lot of takeaways from all of them. We talked about empathy at the very beginning. We talked about curiosity in the second session. In fact, I just remembered about the hippo. Were you curious about the hippo, Ola? Did you know that they can run faster than humans?
I just found out from you, and
Okay.
they can swim. They can swim faster too, so it's quite interesting.
So you're not escaping a hippo, but the follow-on question from that, if you're curious, is which animal do you think kills more humans every year? Hippos or lions? That was for you.
The obvious answer is lions, so I'm gonna say hippos.
Mm.
Yeah.
The answer is hippos, but you know, could you
How?
could you guess?
Can
Can you guess
I
by
mean,
how many? So I will tell you, lions kill 22 people on average a year. How many people do you think hippos kill?
twice as much?
So you're going 44. Okay. Any advances?
Oh.
Well, further to the chat. Any advances on 44? I'm supposed to be sharing my screen. Let's see if anybody else can guess. And in the meantime, I will thank Ola once again. Ola, thank you so much for a wonderful session. I'm only saying 50. You're all 100. Oh, we're creeping up in numbers. You guys are all still way, way off. Lions
Oh
kill
my God.
22 people. Hippos on average kill 500 people a year, which is the same as elephants, actually. There you go, another interesting fact. Full of interesting animal facts over here. Okay, just to wrap up the last couple of slides, of course, I mentioned at the beginning that there will be certificates, but I'll mention it again. In the next few days, we'll send out an email with a ton of resources, like this little book for curiosity, little book of inclusive teaching, the handouts with all the writing prompts, all the slides which we think will be useful to you, the recording, I'll share the link for that as well, and anything else that I can think of that will help you turn all of these ideas into action. It's all lovely to come and listen to us. I'm sure you've had a wonderful evening, but our real goal in this, in terms of our teacher development program, is to turn all of this into action in your classrooms and help you enrich the learning experiences of your students. I mentioned it's brought to you by the MENA Academy. Again, I'll share the link for the website. Please go and explore that. We asked what you wanted to cover in 2026. If you weren't with us at the very beginning, if you joined partway through, welcome to you. We're thinking of topics that we might cover in professional development activities next year. So if you've got any ideas, put them in the chat box and I will go back over the chat box at a later date. and extract any popular ones or ones that I think are actually super cool and I just want to do myself. I'll do that too. And our next webinar series will be in also 2026. And in this webinar series, we always invite you guys, your expertise, your experience, any research that you're doing, any passions that you have. If you would like to improve or you'd like an opportunity to do some public speaking and do some presentations, this is what our summer sessions are for. So I will also, in the follow-up email, put an application form on there as well, and we will choose 2 or 3 people to join us in the summer. So good luck with that. And the final slide is we are back tomorrow with the Young Learners Day, the Global Young Learners Day. I saw Mohammed put all the links in the chat box, which is great. Again, I can share them in the follow-up email. Please do join us tomorrow. You'll have, amongst others, the wonderful Miriam, who's been with us this evening. And in 2 weeks' time, we're back exploring the teen classroom. So we're going to be taking a different angle. We're going to be looking at differentiation, engagement, mixed abilities, and also thinking a bit about the modern world for our teenage learners, things like social media usage, influencers, digital wellness, which I think is going to be a really interesting topic. Teens are using digital tools, technology, AI more and more. How do we ensure we retain that mental health at the same time? So really interesting, and we'll share the link for you to register for that as well. And with that, please do join us tomorrow. We will be back. There's the QR code. I'm going to leave this slide up on the screen. If you want to register right now, scan that with your phone, and you can register for tomorrow's event if you haven't already. It's going on 3 times during the day, 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 9:30 p.m. That's UK time. And we hope you enjoy it. I will see you there. I'll be in the chat box tomorrow because Will be presenting. But I will be back on day 1 of the Teens Festival on the 25th. So I look forward to seeing you all then. And for now, we hope you've enjoyed the Young Learners Festival for 2025. And we look forward to seeing you again soon.